Chapter 1468. Chu Yang's eyes were closed as he floated in the air. It was as if he was lying on the beach, basking in the sunlight. He didn't put up any resistance at all, as if he didn't care about Peng Sage's decapitation art at all. Peng Sage's mouth twitched as he thought, "This brat is crazy, even crazier than I was when I was young." Rumble. Suddenly, Chu Yang's body burst out with the sound of a mountain torrent. His body shook violently. His flesh and blood swirled in the air like rain. The splashing of broken bones and crushed bones were like fine snow and ice in the midst of rain and snow. Bang! His entire body was like a free-falling stone, falling straight down and smashing heavily into the forest below. His body spasmed, but he did not scream, nor did he show any mental fluctuations. He was like a snake whose tail had been cut off. After that, there was no more sound. It seemed that Chu Yang was already dead. He was completely dead. Peng Sage narrowed his eyes as he looked at the blood-soaked body below. He didn't make a sound or move. No one dared to make a sound, and no one dared to move. There was no sound, and the atmosphere was oppressive to the extreme. It was as if there was a boulder pressing down on everyone's heart. The world suddenly fell into a deathly stillness. It remained deathly stillness for a long time. Only the ignorant wind was bold and reckless. It appeared out of nowhere and let out a whistling sound. Chu Yang's consciousness sank into endless darkness after the shock. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. He was the first to die in the calamity, and he didn't even know how he died. The only thing he knew was that the calamity had arrived. The world should have been destroyed, and everything should have been wiped out. The world should have been killed. I've been decapitated by the fourth style of the Peng decapitation art. His thoughts were incomparably clear, so clear that it was terrifying. In this endless darkness, in this endless silence, his mind was restless, and he even felt like he was going crazy. My accumulation, my cultivation, it's still not enough to withstand this attack and transcend. That shouldn't be the case. The heavenly soul realm and the myriad god realm should be strong enough to bind me. In the boundless darkness and endless silence, Chu Yang could clearly hear every sound he made. He discovered that his voice was incomparably loud and clear. It was transmitted so far, just like a butterfly that slightly flapped its wings and caused a great storm. Naturally, no one answered him. Naturally, there was no response. Naturally, there was no person, object, or matter that barged in. There was only endless torment. As such, Chu Yang didn't know how much time had passed. He felt that such a long period of time was enough for him to die of old age 1,000 times over. He didn't know when, but in this endless darkness, there was an even darker darkness, as well as endless light. One was like hell, the other was like heaven. Fiend God Martial Spirit. Chu Yang's voice resounded from the darkness. Then, he said, "No, it should be the Destiny Twins. The Divine Devil is just a state of the Destiny Twins during a certain period of time." Chapter 1469. During this process, Chu Yang felt as if he was shuttling through many space-time passages. He seemed to have passed through many space-time passages, and many worlds. Finally, he felt as if he had come to a stop. Then, he saw his broken and bloody body. Chu Yang looked at his own body, feeling very strange. This feeling was as if he was looking at all the living beings in the outer space, and his body was like a world. Everything on his body that was dripping with blood was like the rolling dust of the mortal world. Every piece of his flesh and blood, every cell was a living being in that world. He also felt as if he had broken through the void and become an immortal from the outer space, but he didn't feel as if his soul had left his body at all. His body didn't seem to have anything to do with him. Immediately, his broken body began to repair itself, just like the world after a great disaster, recovering from the chaos. Time smoothed out all kinds of scars, erasing all traces. After that, living beings were born in this world again. There were more and more living beings, and this world became lively again, full of vitality, full of endless hope, the birth of a new era. In this era, the two cultivation systems of the heavenly spirit world and the God's world also appeared, carrying everything in this era, entangling with each other until the end of the era. When the godly demon martial spirit appeared again, Chu Yang's various wonderful senses shattered like a mirror. Then, like an immortal entering the mortal world, he entered that world. His consciousness finally returned to his body. Boom! At this moment, the forest where Chu Yang was in exploded. The energy released was like a big sun, from small to big, and finally expanded to the limit, completely released. The wind whistled, and the huge rocks in the forest were like goose feathers, fluttering in the wind. In the end, they were invisibly shattered, and the gravel scattered in all directions. The grass and trees were all uprooted, and a layer of the ground was ruthlessly scraped off. When everything calmed down, the original mess in the forest was all gone, and in its place was a huge pit. There wasn't a trace of debris in the pit, but at the center of the pit, there was a dazzling body lying on its back. Wang! All of a sudden, the body opened its eyes. Endless ripples spread out from its eyes. 2 beams of light shot up into the sky. An astonishing aura swept out in all directions like a storm. It was as if a storm was coming. It was also as if a piece of earth-shattering news was spreading in all directions at the fastest speed. It was as if it was announcing the birth of a supreme figure. Ha! Chu Yang's injuries were completely healed, and his entire body was filled with surging power. It was as if he could cover the sky with a raise of his hand and pluck the stars and the moon. The laws of the heavenly soul world and the myriad god world inside him were like 2 subjects facing their emperor. They cooperated with each other, fought against each other, and formed a balance in the imperial court. But in the end, they had to listen to his orders. If he wanted to break the balance now, why couldn't he? He could allow one side to dominate for the time being and beat the other side first. Once the dominant side was satisfied, he would beat them and make them fall from the clouds. Everything was in his control, and this was a wonderful feeling. Neither side could escape from his grasp. Chu Yang had successfully broken free from the bindings of the heavenly soul world and the myriad god world. Senior, am I wrong? Am I qualified to be arrogant? Am I weaker than you, Senior? Chu Yang looked at Sage Peng and laughed. He was extremely arrogant. It was as if he was the only one in the world. He didn't put anything in his eyes. Time, space, sun, moon, stars, everything in the world, everything in the universe. Chapter 1470. Everyone, who was still in shock, was thrown into disarray by Chu Yang's sudden action. Chu Yang's aura had just woken up. That kind of aura was truly frightening. However, the contrast between before and after was so great that it was like a roller coaster ride. That's right. You have the right to be arrogant. Sage Peng spoke amidst Chu Yang's laughter. The rock saint's approval of Chu Yang shocked everyone present. They almost stopped breathing for a moment. Suddenly, they saw Sage Peng laugh. You are indeed not weaker than me. To be precise, you are stronger than me. What? Everyone was so shocked that they almost jumped up. The most arrogant Sage Peng in history actually admitted that he was inferior to Chu Yang, but Sage Peng suddenly laughed incomparably mockingly. Kid, are you sure you want me to hit you? Crack. Although it was only a light shadow and not Sage Peng's true body, when he clenched his fists, cracking sounds could be heard. Are you sure you want me to let the dog bite you? Ha ha. Chu Yang's laughter came to an abrupt halt. He flew up into the air and arrived in front of Sage Peng. He smiled incomparably flatteringly. Grandpa Peng, I was just joking with you. You don't have to take it seriously. This shameless thing. Everyone couldn't help but curse in their hearts. They had never seen someone act so familiar and try to worm their way into being friends. Grandpa. Sage Peng's eyes slanted as he looked at Chu Yang. Are you sure I'm your grandpa? Yes, I'm very sure and incomparably certain. Chu Yang smiled like a dog's tail flower. Grandpa Peng, you are my biological grandpa. This bastard who randomly called himself a grandpa. Wasn't he afraid that his biological grandpa would beat him half to death? If your biological father knew, wouldn't you be skinned if you randomly found a father for him? Chu Yang's lowliness and shamelessness really exceeded everyone's imagination and broke their worldview. Oh! Sage Peng's smile became even brighter as he pointed at Liu Yunpeng. If I'm your biological grandpa, then who is he to you? Liu Yunpeng, this simpleton, this tsunder, this plaything. Chu Yang was unhappy, but he could only pinch his nose and accept it. Who asked him to not have a grandfather who would scare him like this? He smiled and said, "Grandpa, he's your grandson, so he's naturally my brother." Hee hee. Rock Sage sneered, "So you're planning to kill your brother?" "I'm innocent." Chu Yang immediately shouted, "My brother is sick. He has to be treated, and he has to be severely treated. I say, Grandpa, you must see through the facade and see the essence. You must not be biased anymore." As he spoke, he pointed at Liu Yunpeng. "Look at how much you've spoiled him. He's already sick. If you don't treat him soon, he'll really die from the illness. Fortunately, I was quick-witted and managed to rescue him in time." To be able to say such words, she was truly the most shameless slut in history. Everyone was completely defeated by Chu Yang. He could actually talk nonsense to such an extent, turning black into white. Liu Yunpeng was sick beyond cure, and he actually boasted that he was quick-witted. Overall evaluation, this shameless person, his shamelessness was beyond cure, beyond cure. Treating your brother's illness is not wrong, but I can't let you two brothers become enemies, right? Go, hug your brother's shoulder, hihi, let me be happy. Everyone was stunned again. Was this Sage Peng sick? Chapter 1471. Whoosh. Chu Yang directly flew towards Liu Yunpeng and put his arm around Liu Yunpeng's shoulder without warning. "I say, brother was just doing it for your own good. You don't have to be so petty, right?" Liu Yunpeng was still in a daze and was caught off guard. He hurriedly threw away Chu Yang's hand and fiercely pushed Chu Yang away. "Wild dog, get lost." After he completely reacted, he sneered at Chu Yang. "Wild dog, are you worthy of being my brother? Someone as shameless as you has really opened my eyes. You just casually call anyone your grandfather. You, pa." Suddenly, the sound of a slap rang out. Liu Yunpeng was thrown out of the air and landed heavily on the ground. He covered his face on the ground and couldn't help but look at his grandfather in shock. Sage Peng. Liu Yunpeng was dumbfounded by this result. He was the Peng Sage's grandfather, so why was he the one who was slapped? Sage Peng faced Liu Yunpeng's incredulous gaze and frowned. He couldn't help but coldly snort. "Do you think I'm happy to see you brothers fighting each other?" "Brother." Liu Yunpeng felt as if he had been hit in the head with a stick. He saw stars and almost suspected that he had misheard. However, the cold aura from his grandfather made him know that there was no mistake. "I say, brother, what are you doing?" Chu Yang went over and put his arm around his shoulder again. He smiled and said, "Brother, isn't this for your own good? I'm treating your illness." "What, do you still hate your brother?" Chu Yang laughed in his heart. This was even more fun than beating Liu Yunpeng to death. "Wild dog, get lost." Liu Yunpeng pushed away Chu Yang's arm again and cursed. "Aya!" Chu Yang was sent flying. With a loud bang, he smashed into the ground, creating a deep pit. Liu Yunpeng began to doubt himself. Did he really have that much strength in that push? Although he didn't know that it was a fake fall and a scam, he instantly understood. Pa. However, he received another slap to the face and was reprimanded by the Rock Sage. "Bastard, do you really want to anger me to death?" Hee hee. Chu Yang laughed sinisterly in his heart and said to himself, "Liu Yunpeng, you bastard. I was forced to acknowledge you as my grandfather. If you don't bleed a little, how can I feel at ease?" He repeated his old trick and stood up from the ground. He patted the dust off his butt and walked over. Once again, he put his arm around Liu Yunpeng's shoulder and said earnestly, "Brother, I'm really doing this for your own good. You'll understand in the future. There's no need to make your grandfather angry." Liu Yunpeng didn't say anything this time, nor did he make a move. He only looked coldly at Chu Yang. Chu Yang's trick didn't work. He already felt that Liu Yunpeng wasn't cooperating. When he saw Liu Yunpeng's murderous gaze, he immediately became angry. Bang! He punched Liu Yunpeng on the nose and cursed, "What, you still want to play with me?" Bang, bang, bang. Chu Yang punched and kicked and cursed, "You bastard, you think you're better than you? You think you're amazing, right? If it wasn't for your grandfather protecting you, I would have beaten you to death 100 times. How dare you be unhappy now? It's really tiring to be your brother. Chapter 1472. Bang! Chu Yang kicked the bird one last time before calling it a day. Grandpa, if he doesn't listen to me in the future, I'll teach him a lesson like this. Sure. Rock Sage nodded. As long as he doesn't die, I don't care how you educate your little brother. When Liu Yunpeng heard this, he felt as if he had been abandoned by heaven and earth. He cursed Rock Sage in his heart and roared, "Am I your grandson, or is Wild Dog your grandson?" Chu Yang wasn't surprised at all. When Rock Sage picked up on his grandpa's words, he somewhat understood Rock Sage wanted him to teach his grandson a lesson. Now, he was incomparably sure of this, without the slightest doubt. Rock Sage thought highly of him. Although Chu Yang was a bit vexed, he had to accept. However, Liu Yunpeng wasn't convinced, so he couldn't tolerate it. Otherwise, this thing would turn the heavens upside down in the future. Besides, he didn't want to fight every day to suppress Liu Yunpeng. Since Holy Sun Rock was here, he might as well beat him up in front of Rock Sage and let him understand the situation. Grandpa. Suddenly, a sweet voice rang out, filled with endless flattery. The parrot fluttered toward Rock Sage like an obedient child. Rock Sage looked at the parrot and smiled. He remembered very clearly how the parrot had cursed him. He had a good impression of the parrot for daring to shout at him, "A saint." Haha, my great-grandson. Great-grandson. What was going on? Wasn't he supposed to be a grandson? How did he become a great-grandson? The parrot clearly paused in midair, almost falling straight down. It saw Chu hang as a grandson very clearly. How did it become a great-grandson when it came to him? This old bastard is not a good bird either. The parrot cursed in its heart, then called out flatteringly, "Great-grandpa." Hey, good boy. Many people heard this, and goosebumps appeared on their skin. Did this damned bird have no bottom line, no integrity, and no morals? It was really randomly calling him an ancestor. Xia Wanjin, what do you say? Chu Yang quickly attracted the attention of the parrot. He smiled at Xia Wanjin. Do you want to fight me, or do you want to hand over your soul imprint? Xia Wanjin instantly became the center of attention. Damn it. He gritted his teeth hatefully. If Liu Yunpeng had lost, he would have given up resisting. However, at the moment, he simply couldn't do it. It was the same in the Cave of Frost, and it was the same now. Therefore, he was thinking of a way to get out of this. It wasn't impossible for him to think of a method like Liu Yunpeng's. Answer me. Chu Yang sneered. How could he not see through Xia Wanjin's intentions? However, when he saw Xia Wanjin's body tremble, he was incomparably surprised. He heard Xia Wanjin say, "I can give you my soul imprint." Whoosh! A soul light shot out, and submerged into Chu Yang's spiritual world in an instant. Chu Yang felt this imprint. It was indeed Xia Wanjin's soul imprint. He was a little puzzled. Xia Wanjin, what's going on? He changed a little too quickly. Peng give your soul imprint to your big brother too. As soon as Sage Peng spoke, the people who were still shocked by Xia Wanjin's compromise were fiercely shocked again. Liu Yunpeng hesitated and was fiercely reprimanded by Sage Peng. Did you hear what I said? Yes, grandfather. Liu Yunpeng also gritted his teeth and handed over his soul imprint. Good grandson, come with me. Sage Peng was about to take Chu Yang away, but Chu Yang beat him to it. Grandfather, I still have a few friends here. After they are safe, I will come find you. Of course, Chu Yang was not at ease with Kui Xinhu and the other two. After all, Chu Yang had let them trigger the lightning punishment and kill many people. If the relatives and friends of those who had died had the chance, how could they let the three of them go? No need to be so troublesome. Sage Peng looked at everyone and said coldly, "From today onwards, remember this. Whoever dares to humiliate my good grandson and call him a wild dog will be killed without mercy." Chapter 1473. Why? Why do I have to submit to that wild dog? I might have a way. As soon as Chu Yang left, Xia Wanjin roared in his mind. Clearly, he was very dissatisfied with someone and was venting the anger in his heart. Wild dog, hey. Instantly, A sinister and strange laughter sounded in Xia Wanjin's mind. Let me give you a piece of advice. In the future, when you see your master, you have to be as respectful as you can. Otherwise, it'll be too late for regrets. Don't say I didn't warn you. The voice was ancient and hoarse, and it was extremely evil. Evil god, are you joking? Evil god, there was actually an evil god in Xia Wanjin's body. If others knew, it would be terrible. Joking? The evil voice sounded again. Is Rock Sage joking? Do you think your master is just shameless? It seems like you're simply an idiot. Stupid beyond compare. What? Xia Wanjin was shocked. You're my host now. Who do you think I want to submit to? The evil voice mocked. In terms of pride, wasn't he even prouder? He was an ancient evil god. How could he submit to a junior, an ant? However, the ancient evil god was also very wary of Chu Yang, even fearful. After a slight hesitation, he spoke again. I'd better make it clear to you. Otherwise, such a great opportunity will slip away from your hands. Opportunity? What kind of opportunity could there be? Don't be unconvinced. The ancient evil god sneered. Do you know why Rock Sage is so respectful to your master? Just now, when he endured Rock Sage's self-created transcendence technique, I felt an extremely strong demon master aura from his body. Do you know what that means? Demon master. Xia Wanjin's body suddenly trembled. His face was incomparably pale without a trace of blood, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Demon master, the master of all demons, the ruler of all darkness, all evil, and all sin. He only appeared in rumors, but no one had ever seen him before. No one knew how terrifying the demon master was, but every supreme figure was very respectful when the demon master was mentioned. Keek. The ancient evil god laughed strangely. Are you surprised? Your master not only has the aura of a demon master, but also the aura of a divine master. What? Xia Wanjin felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire body trembled as his mind buzzed and went blank. He was terrified to the extreme. After a while, he asked, is that possible? The divine master is the master of gods, and the devil master is his mortal enemy. How can they coexist? At this moment, the ancient evil god couldn't bring himself to laugh. He said solemnly, this is where the fear lies. If I wasn't crippled, I would definitely seize his body. I'm sure that if one could comprehend the mysteries of Qiuzhong, they would definitely become the most powerful existence. What a pity. Demon master. Divine master. Xia Wanjin couldn't calm down for a long time. The wild dog in his eyes was actually such a terrifying existence. How was provoking such a person different from committing suicide? Now, he finally understood why Chu Yang could do such a shocking thing. These shocking things were all natural. He was even sure that Chu Yang had hidden most of his strength. You understand now, the ancient evil god said. The ancient evil god said, if it wasn't for your master wanting to boost the reputation of the Eastern Barren Territory, you wouldn't have been able to get such an opportunity. You would have definitely been silently killed by him and become a ghost that died in vain. You should thank those idiots from the Eastern continent. Then he should really be Eastern Wilderness 002. Chapter 1474. Xia Wanjin's body shook violently, then he let out a long sigh and spoke again, I know what to do. You need to change your mindset. Now, you need to enter the identity of a servant, humble, respectful, and loyal. If your master does not die in the end, you will receive far more than you can imagine. The ancient demon god disdainfully said, your dream of becoming the head of the Xia family is nothing but a fart. Because of my master, not only can I be resurrected, you will also become a supreme existence, second only to one, above millions, or even immortal. As he spoke, the ancient demon god suddenly muttered to himself, the heavenly Tao seems to have changed, the master's appearance is most likely the arrival of a new era. This time, the changes in the heavenly Tao will be far more intense than before. Supreme existence. Xia Wanjin did not hear what the ancient demon god was saying, only these words were in his mind. Originally, he thought that becoming the head of the Xia family would be extremely difficult, but now, he actually had the chance to become one of the supreme existences. He was so excited that his hands trembled, suddenly feeling that his plan was not perfect enough. He suddenly said to the ancient demon god, "I am afraid that the master's strategy is not targeted enough. I am afraid that it will not please the master and win his trust. I hope you can give me a suggestion." Keek. The ancient demon god laughed strangely. "You are not hopeless, you changed quickly enough." Xia Wanjin was not ashamed. He did not know how terrifying Chuyang was before, but now that he knew, how could this be considered a humiliation? Just as the ancient demon god said, this was a supreme opportunity, a great fortune for him. First of all, you have to open your heart to Master. You have to express your loyalty to Chuyang. You have to treat Master as your brother. A brother that you are willing to sacrifice your life for. You must remember this position, but you have to take it slowly. The ancient demon god said seriously, "Did you notice, when the master was in danger, that parrot and the 3 people in the eastern wilderness dared to stand up and treat the master as a brother? They are your best role models. As for my master, he's actually not a mean person. He values friendship and righteousness. If you can do that, Xia Wanjin instantly understood. He looked over at the parrot and Kui Xinhu, and his eyes suddenly filled with envy. The parrot and the others stared blankly, completely at a loss as to what was going on. "They are no match for you. Your opponent is Xiong Longxiang, Wang, bear, dragon, elephant." Xia Wanjin's mind buzzed. Although there was rock sage, because of Liu Yunpeng's attitude, Liu Yunpeng did not have the upper hand. Xiong Longxiang, on the other hand, had pledged his allegiance to Chuyang before he and Liu Yunpeng had pledged their allegiance to him. Moreover, he was able to put his mind at ease and did his best to assist Chuyang in subduing them. Thus, he must have obtained a great favorable impression from Chuyang and left him far behind. "Did you notice?" The ancient demon god said coldly, "You're not even as good as Xiong Longxiang." Before, Xiong Longxiang was already able to cooperate with the parrot. Therefore, if you don't pay attention, your position in the master's heart will fall behind Xiong Longxiang. Xiong Longxiang is really a big threat. Chapter 1475. There's no need. The evil god cackled. Master is as cunning as a ghost. He already knew that he was exposed. Plus, he guessed Sage Peng's character. That's why he was so close to Sage Peng. Sage Peng also realized how terrifying Master is. That's why he followed Master's advice. There's no need for this. Master already knew the consequences of being exposed and hid it very well. That shocking result was now completely logical in Xia Wanjin's eyes. There was nothing inconceivable about it. There was a reason behind it. As for Chuyang's shamelessness, recklessness, as well as his wanton joking and cursing, all of that was just a facade. If they thought that Chuyang was such a person, then they would have been fooled the moment this thought popped up in their heads. They would have been extremely stupid. Sage Peng was like Liu Yunpeng. Everything could be explained. Don't be in a daze. Don't let Xiong Longxiang take the lead. Xia Wanjin didn't understand what the evil god was saying. "I'm talking about the parrot and the 3 from the eastern wilderness." The evil god immediately reminded him. Master was very worried about them before he left. Although Sage Peng spoke, it doesn't mean that there aren't any crazy people. Xia Wanjin instantly understood. The parrot was extremely despicable and hateful. The 3 from the eastern wasteland probably hated those 3 too much because of the lightning punishment they triggered. He immediately said to the parrot and the others, "The 4 of you, come over here." Everyone was still in shock and admiration because of Chuyang. In the midst of intense discussion, the clamor was endless. Suddenly, when they heard Xia Wanjin speak, they couldn't help but fall silent. They all looked at Xia Wanjin in astonishment. In the past, Xia Wanjin would have felt incomparably humiliated when faced with such fiery gazes. But now, he could only sneer. What's going on? Kui Xinhu and the others were a bit stunned. They pointed at themselves in disbelief. The parrot's eyes widened. "Don't misunderstand," Xia Wanjin said. "My soul imprint is in Master's hands. If any of you are seriously injured, I'll have to pay with my life. So that's how it is." Kui Xinhu and the others heard this and unconsciously leaned over. The parrot cursed, "Bah! You jinx. Can't you say something nice? Then, it shouted towards the crowd, this divine bird is the Peng Saint's great-grandson, who dares to cause trouble for this divine bird? This damned bird. Xia Wanjin finally understood why Chu Yang would sometimes pluck all the feathers off this damned bird. Right now, he also had the same impulse. No one responded. The parrot fluttered towards Xia Wanjin and landed on Hao Haodong's shoulder. Dang dang, your shoulder is not bad. This excuse made Hao Haodong roll his eyes. Damn it, I actually let Xia Wanjin beat me to it. Seeing this, Xiong Longxiang secretly stomped his foot and immediately moved closer to Xia Wanjin. Xia Wanjin naturally could not drive them away. From now on, he, Xiong Longxiang, and Liu Yunpeng would be a single entity. Xiao Chang'e is really just a ghost who died unjustly, Xia Wanjin secretly said in his heart. He unconsciously broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, he was a little cautious. Otherwise, he might really end up like Xiao Chang'e. Seeing this scene, the soul-merged sage, the Dharma characteristic sage, and the Nirvana sage were secretly shocked. Even someone as arrogant as Xia Wanjin is now like this. I should also work harder. Chapter 1476. Sister, did you see that? Did I trick you? The little lowly remembered Yinyin and said proudly, fortunately, I reminded you that you must make brother-in-law take responsibility for you. Otherwise, brother-in-law's husband would have left long ago. You wouldn't even have a place to cry. Suddenly, Ji Yinmeng's face turned red. She couldn't stand her sister anymore and started to teach her a lesson. She roared, Ji Yinyin, I think you're rebelling. Ji Yinyin screamed, but she wasn't convinced. Sister you're obviously attracted to brother-in-law. Why are you pretending? Remembering that Yin Meng was even angrier, she was even more ruthless. The two sisters were immediately thrown into a state of chaos, with chicken feathers all over the ground. Many people in the Sky Academy felt suffocated and then sighed. It wasn't strange that Ji Yinmeng liked someone like Chu Yang. If they were women, they would probably make the same choice as Ji Yinmeng. The fierce battle between Chu Yang and Liu Yunpeng spread quickly. The appearance of Saint Peng, asking Liu Yunpeng to hand over his soul imprint, threatening and warning everyone in the Eastern continent that anyone who insulted Liu Yunpeng would die. These mysterious and bizarre things spread even faster and caused an even bigger commotion. Compared to Chu Yang's use of the space-time tunnel seal, it caused a bigger sensation and had a more far-reaching impact. It made everyone realize that from now on, there would be a saint standing behind the Eastern wilderness. In this way, no one in the East continent would dare to wantonly humiliate and kill people in the Eastern wilderness. Even the Sky Academy had to pay more attention to someone like Chu Yang. They probably wouldn't dare to disrespect him. This was the power of a saint. There weren't many saints in the East continent. As for a saint like Sage Peng, even if the saints in the East continent dared to fight him over such a small matter, they would probably be slapped to death by him. Rock Sage was not an ordinary saint. There were many supreme figures. Even if their cultivation level was much higher than Rock Sage's, they would not dare to look down on him. On the other side, Rock Saint took Chu Yang out of Sky Academy and came to a forest. Layers upon layers of mountains covered in a thick layer of wild grass. Vigorous, emerald green pine trees stood proudly among the wild grass. The mountain wind blew, and the sound of the pine trees rustled. Not far away, the sound of a small spring tinkling could be heard. The flowing water seemed to be playing a happy song. There were no traces of humans in this mountain forest. It was a dangerous place, and the scenery was beautiful. After reaching this place, Sacred Rock's shadow silently disappeared. Only Chu Yang and Liu Yunpeng were left behind. Chu Yang saw that Liu Yunpeng was not convinced, so he beat him up. Only then did Liu Yunpeng calm down. Humph! Just as Chu Yang stopped, an old man walked out of the void with a cold snort. He looked at Liu Yunpeng and said, "You're too disappointing. You still haven't comprehended anything. Go there and reflect. I'll deal with you after I'm done talking to your brother." Liu Yunpeng left angrily. "Little friend, what do you think of my grandson?" Rock Sage suddenly asked Chu Yang as he watched Liu Yunpeng leave. His tone was completely different from before, and Chu Yang did not dare to be mischievous. He's talented, but too arrogant. Chu Yang was not very familiar with Liu Yunpeng. This was the limit of what he could say. Little friend, aren't you arrogant? Chu Yang smiled. I can't escape the word arrogant either. However, I'm better than him. I won't put on a sour face whenever I go there. Then I'll have to trouble you in the future. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. He really couldn't get rid of this burden. He could only smile and say, I say, grandfather, aren't you treating me like an outsider? Haha. Sacred Rock laughed. Little friend, your nature is to my liking. Of course. Chu Yang flattered. Why don't you see whose grandson I am? Chapter 1477. In the spacious and quiet forest, the incense was burning, its fragrance drifting in the air. Peng Sage's sudden words gave Chu Yang a fright. It wasn't because of the divine lord or demon lord, but because of Peng Sage's sudden action. The existence of the godly demon martial spirit brought his consciousness out of that dark space, allowing Chu Yang to transcend. Therefore, just like the ancient evil god thought, he already knew that Peng Sage must have noticed his godly demon martial spirit. A sage was a sage after all. Even if an ordinary person's martial spirit didn't reveal itself, a sage wouldn't be able to hide it. He was naturally an exception, but his godly demon martial spirit was finally revealed. How could it not be noticed? That's good. This way, because of the godly demon martial spirit, he shouldn't know that I have both the heavenly spirit world and the myriad god world's world force. This is the best. It wasn't that Sage Peng couldn't discover such a secret. Rather, he thought it was impossible. Therefore, he didn't even think about it. Otherwise, how could Chu Yang hide it? Whether it's a divine lord or a demon lord, this junior doesn't know, but this junior does have a very strong martial spirit. Chu Yang said, he couldn't hide this secret anymore, he might as well tell the truth. Your martial spirit has transcended. Chu Yang thought for a moment, then shook his head. No, if that was the case, this junior would be a dead man by now. Then what did you transcend? The two are like enemies, there must be a balance, it has a great influence on me. Now, I don't need to do that, so I've transcended. Chu Yang was absolutely speaking the truth. If Peng Sage was wrong, then it wasn't his fault. After all, he really did transcend the rules of the heavenly spirit world and the myriad god world. You're very bold. Haha. Chu Yang laughed. Senior, this junior is a madman, I naturally have to follow suit. After all, if you want to pretend to be 13, you need to have some ability. Peng Sage smiled, looking at Chu Yang as if he was looking at a younger version of himself. He suddenly said, look at me, what do you see? This question was somewhat inexplicable, but Chu Yang was momentarily stunned. Rock Sage had a head of white hair, but his face was very red. His figure could only be described in this way. He was not a bit thinner, but he was definitely not a bit fatter. It seemed to be the most perfect figure. His figure seemed to be the embodiment of the great Tao. His appearance was ordinary, but his eyes were a little sharp. His face was kind and benevolent. He didn't seem to have any cultivation. He was mature, steady, and elegant. He looked like an old man who was well read, but also like an old man playing chess under a big tree. Such an appearance had nothing to do with the famous Saint Peng, a dignified saint. All of this fell into Chu Yang's eyes. It was because he deeply understood how shocking Peng Saint was. When his gaze peeled away the outer appearance of the secular world, he shockingly saw the heavens, the earth, and all life. Everything in Rock Sage's body, the flow of his blood, the operation of his organs, and so on, seemed to be operating according to the rules of the heavenly Tao. Apart from that, Rock Sage's body emitted a faint light. This light was projected by his spiritual perception. It was clear that his soul was incomparably powerful. Suddenly, Chu Yang felt that because of Rock Sage's existence, the mountain forest he was in had undergone a strange change. Flowers, trees, rocks, they were all located in an orderly manner, forming a great mystery. Chapter 1478. Mind Interference Matter. Suddenly, Chu Yang figured out the crux of the matter. People had auras. Some had weak auras while others had strong auras. Those with strong auras were usually very charming and could affect others. The so-called strong aura was actually referring to the strength of one's soul. Auras were things that leaned towards the mind and soul. Those with strong auras were actually the mental energy they emitted that affected others. Heart and chi as one, man and heaven as one, mind and Tao as one. It was an extremely profound realm that could only be understood and not explained. If one couldn't understand, then it was useless to talk. Like Sage Peng, whose soul was so strong that he was one with heaven and earth at all times, heaven and earth were like his body. It wasn't something that could be explained. If Sage Peng hadn't deliberately revealed it, Chu Yang wouldn't have noticed it even if he had the godly demon martial soul. Buzz. Sage Peng suddenly opened his eyes, and Chu Yang immediately felt a great pressure. It was as if the heavens were descending, and he almost suffocated. Thump, thump, thump. Chu Yang took 3 steps back. His heart was beating so fast that it almost jumped out of his chest. At this moment, he finally felt the strength of a sage. Compared to a sage, he was just an ant. No matter how much he relied on, how hard he worked, how crazily he cultivated, and how he challenged all kinds of dangers and limits, it was still the difference between heaven and earth. What else did you see? Sage Peng's eyes flashed with great surprise. Chu Yang had sensed it so deeply that it was far beyond his imagination. He originally thought that Chu Yang wouldn't be able to sense it, but he never expected that this kid in front of him would be so shocking and have such a deep comprehension. When Sage Peng was young, he knew that he couldn't do it. As for his grandson, Liu Yunpeng, there was no need to talk about it. He couldn't even sense it. If Saint Peng was a person, then Liu Yunpeng would be a small pebble. No matter how great his achievements were, Liu Yunpeng wouldn't be able to understand the slightest bit of extraordinariness. As for Chu Yang, he was like a 6 or 7-year-old child. He clearly knew that Saint Peng was a great figure. He even knew what his great achievements meant and what they represented. Chu Yang lowered his eyes and thought for a long time without saying anything. Rock Sage said, "I haven't fought with anyone for more than 100 years. I only seek to get rid of calamities, seek the great Tao, seek to transcend, and be free in the world. In my opinion, a battle or a life or death battle is a waste of life. It will cause the mind to be covered in dust, and the ability to comprehend will be obscured. People will also become dull." Chu Yang knew that the rock sage wanted to discuss the Tao with him. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He really thinks highly of me. He immediately became extremely cautious. The rock sage seemed to only be opening his mouth, but in fact, it was incomparably fierce. It was far more dangerous than a battle between warriors. The rock sage wanted to fight with him. The only difference was the method. This was questioning his heart and shaking his belief. If other people fought like this, Chu Yang wouldn't need to care at all. He could just let it go in one ear and out the other, treating it as bullshit. However, this was the rock sage. His words contained his spirit force. In such a battle, he wouldn't be able to refute or win. In that case, Chu Yang's mind would be invaded by the rock sage spirit force, affecting everything about him. Chapter 1479. Chu Yang felt that this was actually a question. What is martial? What is Tao? Bravery is martial arts, decisiveness in killing is martial arts, and generosity in dying for justice is martial arts. Similarly, diligence is martial. Optimism is martial. Calmness in the face of danger is martial. A promise is martial. Loyalty is also martial. As for the Tao, everyone had their own Tao. Everyone also had their own understanding of the Tao. Different people sought different Taos, so their Taos were different. To put it simply, this was like a clash of values. If one agreed, one would change one's thinking and world view. It was fine if the other party's idea was correct. If the other party's understanding was incorrect, then it would be beyond redemption. Even if the other party's idea was correct, if one lacked thought and did not have their own things, then they would be like a puppet being controlled. In martial arts, such a formless confrontation was even more dangerous. If one's belief in martial arts was shaken, then the cultivation that they had painstakingly cultivated and the solid foundation would be greatly shaken. All of their previous efforts would be wasted. Rock Sage's words made Chu Yang's martial arts worthless. However, was Chu Yang willing to fight and kill? Was he willing to fight? He had no choice. He finally spoke, "The world is dangerous and demonic. Without the means to subdue demons, how can one live peacefully in this world? Cultivation is a struggle against heaven and earth. Without fighting, how can one advance to the next level? Even supreme eminent monks who are compassionate do not lack the means to kill enemies and eliminate demons." What Rock Sage was asking Chu Yang now was actually the same question that a supreme eminent monk had asked him in the past. He was greatly influenced by the eminent monk. Now, he wanted to see how Chu Yang would answer. Chu Yang's answer was the same as when he was young. Therefore, he was not surprised at all. Martial arts are no match for calamity. Divine arts are no match for karma. The stronger the martial arts, the stronger the divine arts, the more demonic obstacles there are. In the end, there is no way to kill. How can your martial arts and Tao exist? Martial arts have many means, but they are all external. Divine arts are like demonic obstacles. The stronger the divine arts, the greater the demonic obstacles. The stronger the divine arts, the greater the demonic obstacles. This sentence was actually quite simple to understand. If divine abilities were compared to authority, the greater the authority, the greater the problem one had to deal with. The more difficult it was, the stronger the political enemies one would face. This made the great men of Chu Yang's previous life seem to be worthless. However, there were some things that needed to be done, and someone had to do it. If there were no great people, who would be able to lead the masses out of suffering? He was very cautious. Under the influence of Rock Sage's spirit force, if he failed, the consequences would be unbearable. Chu Yang lowered his eyes again. After a long time, he suddenly opened his eyes and said, "You are too stubborn." This kind of debate was a formless exchange of blows. It was even more dangerous than a martial arts competition. Chu Yang naturally wouldn't care about the other party's identity and weaken his momentum. In addition, according to what you said, does that mean that everyone has to become a monk and be merciful, abstain from meat and recite Buddhist scriptures? Never fight, never kill. When you are powerless and meet a ferocious tiger that wants to eat you, how are you going to deal with it? It's true that the illusion of emptiness is not bad, but the fate of the world is like a tangle of hemp. There are layers of restraints. Only by holding a sharp knife and cutting the hemp can one be free, not bound by things and free from freedom. Facing Chu Yang's continuous questioning, Rock Sage settled it with a single sentence. "It's not that I'm stubborn. It's that you haven't seen through it. It's not that I haven't seen through it, but it's that you are too stubborn. There are countless great Taos in the world. How can you be the only one who can reach the other shore? How can you be so sure that only your Tao is right? That your Tao will definitely lead you to paradise and not hell?" Chu Yang directly asked, "Have you walked to the end of your Tao? Have you seen the end of everything?" Chapter 1480. At this moment, it was Rock Sage's turn to be silent. He didn't expect that this little fellow's will would be so unshakable. No matter what he said, he still adhered to his own Tao and didn't lose himself, continuing on his own path. To put it bluntly, this thing didn't understand human language and couldn't listen to others' advice. Only when he realized that he was wrong would it be wrong. If he had been like this little guy when he was young, he probably wouldn't have been misled by that senior monk and wasted his time lamenting. People of different Taos cannot work together. Sage Peng's final conclusion. He put away the spirit power that affected Chu Yang and said, "Why did my Peng/Tao art fail?" At this moment, Sage Peng completely approved of Chu Yang, which was why he asked such a question. As he spoke, he transmitted all the mysteries of the Peng/Tao art into Chu Yang's consciousness. Chu Yang sat cross-legged on the ground and carefully comprehended and deduced. After a long time, he expressed his opinion and changed the way he addressed Sage Peng. "Senior, do you know everything about the Kuan Peng?" "I don't care about the Kuan Peng. Why do I need to know about it?" Chu Yang pointed at the ancient tree about 10 feet away from him and said, "Senior, how far are you from this ancient tree?" "About 10 feet. Boom." Chu Yang raised his hand and blew up that tree. Not a single drop remained, And only a big pit was left there. What if there wasn't this tree? It's still about 10 feet. Senior, didn't you also find something to replace that tree? Sage Peng smiled and said, I did find a replacement. If the Kuan Peng is that tree, I have the rock race's martial path to replace it. Why would I care about whether there is a tree or not? Senior, if you are just an ordinary person with ordinary eyesight and can't see the bottom of the pit from afar, what will you do? If you don't find that tree, are you going to find something else to replace it? Senior, have you found something to replace that tree? It was a fact that the Kuan Peng was stronger than the gold rock. The rock race respected the Kuan Peng so much and set the Kuan Peng as their goal. Of course, it wasn't without reason. Therefore, Chu Yang compared the rock clan's martial arts to the bottom of a pit. This was not wrong, nor was it excessive. The ice Kuan was a good example. It had yet to transform into a Kuan Peng, but it was already a saint-level Kuan fish. The rock sage was only a saint now. From Chu Yang's point of view, Kuan Peng was a top scientist, while ice Kuan and rock sage were just students. Students had many choices. They did not have to become scientists in the field of Kuan Peng. They could surpass others in other fields. However, as a student, although his IQ was extremely high, his knowledge had to at least reach the level of a scientist before he could surpass a top scientist like Kuan Peng. Chu Yang's reasoning was very simple. He only asked, have you accumulated enough knowledge? Sage Peng was silent for a long time. For many years, he had focused all his energy on the Peng-cleaving Tao formula, but he had never discovered it. The problem was that his starting point was too low. He only cared about building a car behind closed doors and completely forgot to absorb nutrients to enrich himself. Are you saying that I'm too arrogant? Rock Sage finally spoke again. Senior, you really think too highly of yourself. Aren't you looking down on Kuan Peng and your ancestors too much? Chu Yang spoke frankly. Senior's ancestors, I'm afraid they definitely did not lack outstanding people, but why did they still worship and respect Kuan Peng so much? The reason why you succeeded in summoning your ancestors was probably because you had great ambitions for me and gave me encouragement. Sage Peng was shocked again. When he created the third move of the Peng-cleaving Tao formula, he felt the intent across space and time. It seemed to be true. As for the ancestors of our ancestors, did none of them want to surpass Kuan Peng? Of course, the ancestors of the Gold Rock clan were not without ambition, but why did they all choose to transform into Kuan Peng first? It was because only by standing on the same starting line could they have the qualifications to surpass. What a simple reason. Sage Peng felt that he had lived in vain. He was actually enlightened by a junior. He spoke again. Are you suggesting that I first understand the secrets of Kuan Peng, and then heavily study the Peng-cleaving Tao formula? Hee. Chu Yang laughed. If that's the case, how can I show off my grandfather's might? If I don't walk the path of Kuan Peng, is there no other path to walk? Then you're equivalent to not saying anything. No. Chu Yang shook his head. I was just farting, it stinks. Chapter 1481. Once the two of them started chatting, it got out of hand. From day to night, Chu Yang and Sage Peng were discussing and exchanging their experiences on the martial Tao. They didn't sleep or rest. Not only were they not tired, they were even more spirited. The two of them chatted from the origin martial realm to the Chi Soul realm, the ascending soul realm, the soul reincarnation realm, the soul amalgamation realm, the transcendence realm, the nirvana realm, the life and death realm, and even the saint realm. After that, they talked about body cultivation, formations, feng shui, fate, astrology, and so on. They talked about everything. During this time, they laughed non-stop, which made Liu Yunpeng sneak over to see what was going on. He was astonished to find that there were many birds circling above the two of them. He didn't know where the demonic beasts in the forest had come from, but they were densely packed and surrounded the two of them. All of them were listening attentively. Chu Yang had lived two lives, and his way of thinking was very different from the heavenly spirit world. He had seen a lot. Moreover, with the help of the reincarnation gourd, he had obtained the memories of many people and understood many things. Among them, the memories of Kong Kwong and Bing Kuan were the most important. This allowed him to talk freely with Sage Peng. As the two of them conversed, Chu Yang realized that Sage Peng's accumulation was truly too vigorous. It was also terrifying, and it was even more shocking. He explained all kinds of martial arts to the point of essence. It was refreshing and enlightening. Rock Sage was also incomparably shocked. Chu Yang's understanding of the martial way was actually more broad-minded than his. Chu Yang's understanding of the martial way was completely different from his. There were many questions about the martial way, but after listening to it, it didn't just feel strange. It was as if he had opened a window to another world. What shocked Sage Peng was that Chu Yang was able to talk about the Saint Realm, Reincarnation Realm, and Heavenly Palace Realm. This made him feel very astonished. Although his understanding wasn't shallow, it was just as novel as the previous ones, making him feel refreshed. After all, Chu Yang was only at the 8th level of the spirit stage. The two of them chatted for a full 8 days and 8 nights. During this time, the two of them did not drink or sleep. At Chu Yang's level, this was no longer necessary. 8 days later, when the sun rose and the first ray of sunlight shone into the forest, Chu Yang and Saint Peng both stopped talking and lowered their eyes. 8 days and 8 nights. My comprehension of the martial Tao has deepened, and my martial Tao foundation has become even more solid. After a long time, the birds dispersed, and the demonic beasts were all gone. Chu Yang opened his eyes, and immediately, the mountain forest was filled with light. He stood up and said, "Grandpa Peng, it's been 8 days and 8 nights. My spirit is exhausted to the extreme. If I continue, it will hurt my spirit. It's already very rare." Saint Peng's aura was extremely calm. There was no sign of fatigue. Instead, it was as if he had rested for 8 days. "Grandpa Peng, today is like ascending to the heavens. I'm going to go back and rest." Chu Yang casually moved his limbs that were slightly stiff. His blood qi surged, and his spirit qi surged. The 7 soul realms in his body appeared and connected into a line. He was about to condense his divine soul, but he suppressed it. His heavenly paradise was about to be completed, and his primordial spirit was about to be born. During the 8 days and 8 nights of chatting, Chu Yang had exhausted his spirit more than any battle. He organized the martial Tao from head to toe. When he looked at the world in front of him, he faintly felt that the world in front of him was different. The connection between man and the world was closer. "Go." Saint Peng sighed in his heart. Even a saint might not be able to chat with him for 8 days and 8 nights because their knowledge might not be able to keep up with him. However, this brat in front of him did it. Chapter 1482. Swish. In front of the rock sage, Chu Yang did not deliberately hide. He used the spacetime technique and instantly disappeared. He returned to the Sky Court's spacetime passage seal. Seeing the parrot, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang ignore him, he closed his eyes and quickly fell into a deep sleep. His aura was slow and distant. With every breath he took, his cultivation dropped bit by bit. Spirit Realm Level 7. Spirit Realm Level 6. Spirit Realm Level 5. Soon, his cultivation dropped to the Tao Wheel Soul Realm and continued to drop, Ascending Soul Realm, Qi Soul Realm, Primitive Martial Realm, until it dropped back to Level 1 of the Primitive Martial Realm. The parrot, Kui Xinhu, and the others were fine, but Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang were dumbfounded. His cultivation dropped just like that. The martial realm was like a pagoda that was built. The stronger the foundation, the more difficult it was to push it down and start all over again, let alone someone like Chu Yang. Regardless of whether it was Xia Weijing or Xiong Longxiang, Chu Yang's foundation in martial arts was something that they couldn't compare to. After all, Chu Yang was only at the 8th level of the spirit stage, and he could easily kill a law phase realm existence. Keek. The ancient demon god laughed strangely in Xia Wanjin's spiritual world. "Master, I'm afraid that you have gained a great understanding from talking with the rock sage. I feel that his aura has a feeling of cleansing and returning to the original state. It has become even more elusive." Xia Wanjin naturally noticed this, but he didn't care about it. "Master, how can you let your cultivation drop to the bottom so easily? What's so strange about this?" The ancient demon god said, "Didn't you notice? This is not something that Master did consciously. It is like the heavenly Tao realizing that its rules are incomplete and automatically adjusting. Sizzle! He exclaimed, as expected of the owner of the Demon Lord and Divine Lord. He is not bound by any restrictions and can break through everything with a wave of his hand. Xie Wanjin was speechless. He did not know what to say anymore. There were many geniuses and monsters in the central state, and he had seen many of them, but none of them could compare to the master in front of him. Feel it well, and don't think about the test. It's already a done deal that you'll enter the inner yard. It doesn't matter even if you miss the final test. No one will dare to make things difficult for you. In the past, Sima Jian did not have the confidence to say such words, but now he did. Saint Peng, the Saint Peng of the central state. He had heard of the Saint Peng before, but he never thought that Chu Yang would actually be able to turn the Saint Peng into their backer. He even made the Saint Peng threaten the entire eastern state. This was something that he had never dreamt of. Sima Jian was a little absent-minded as he spoke. The group of people before them had risked their lives, but in the end, he was the only one who survived. The results he obtained were actually not as good as what Chu Yang had done 8 days ago. The eastern wilderness had the backing of a powerful saint. This was the beginning of history, a historical change. What surprised Sima Jian the most was that the friendship between Chu Yang and the Saint Peng was not as superficial as he thought. Because of him, I comprehended the mystery of life and death. I reincarnated from the dead and saved my life. I even almost broke through to the saint realm. Sima Jian thought to himself, perhaps I should ask him for advice. Perhaps he can help me break through to the saint realm very quickly. Sima Jian felt that meeting Chu Yang was a very fortunate thing. It was not because he saved his life and might break through to the saint realm, but because he believed that the things that people of his generation had vowed to do would become a reality in Chu Yang's hands. Chapter 1483. After Sima Jian spoke, it wasn't just the parrot, Kui Xinhu, Xie Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang who calmed down and carefully sensed the changes in Chu Yang's body. After Chu Yang's cultivation fell to the origin martial realm, it began to recover bit by bit. Time passed silently. At this time, Sage Peng called Liu Yunpeng over and asked, "Do you understand now?" Liu Yunpeng didn't say anything. Sigh. Sage Peng sighed, "Then let me ask you, do you know where you went wrong?" "What did I do wrong?" Liu Yunpeng stubbornly refuted, but his voice suddenly lowered. "If I'm wrong, then it's because I'm not as strong as that wild dog." "Wild dog?" Sage Peng frowned. "You know you're not as strong as others, but do you know why?" Liu Yunpeng was stunned, not knowing how to answer. Sage Peng snorted coldly. "Wild dog, that's why you're not as strong as others. You're arrogant and domineering in front of the weak, but you're like a quail in front of those stronger than you." Liu Yunpeng still wasn't convinced. This was human nature, but he was immediately reprimanded. "You're still not convinced. Who is stronger between the Peng race and the Kuanpeng race? Do you have the courage of your brother in front of a Kuanpeng? Do you dare to laugh and curse wantonly in front of a Kuanpeng? Do you dare to kill a Kuanpeng?" "Kuanpeng?" Liu Yunpeng's eyes immediately flashed with fear. Sage Peng was even more displeased. "If you think your brother is a wild dog, then are you also a dog in the Kuanpeng's eyes?" This wasn't impossible. It was the truth. Sage Peng's disdain for the Kuanpeng wasn't without reason. Sage Peng's grandfather had been casually slaughtered by the Kuanpeng like a dog. Liu Yunpeng knew this very well. "Peng-er." After a long period of silence, Rock Sage said softly, "Remember, although there are strong and weak things in the world, there is no such thing as nobility. The so-called noble and lowly were just added by that disgusting person in order to highlight their existence. If you can't change your mind and think that you're not as good as the Kuanpeng or the top talents in the Central Plains, then the realm you can reach in your life will be limited. I'm even sure that you can't reach the Saint realm." "Yes, grandfather." Liu Yunpeng attacked without hesitation. Sigh. Rock Sage let out another long sigh. "What's the point of you brushing me off? It seems like you can't change the things in your bones. You don't even have the logic I'm talking about." In the end, Sage Peng couldn't be bothered to reprimand Liu Yunpeng. He directly said, "Go, Go to your big brother's place and listen to your big brother's orders. Now, your brother is the only one who can wear you down and make you understand some things." Liu Yunpeng finally couldn't hold back. He bitterly said, "Grandfather, do you think so highly of that wild dog?" "Humph, you really can't change a dog's habit," Rock Sage coldly said, "then I'll make you understand. If it weren't for you, I would have become friends with your big brother. I can tell you the reason. Your big brother has a way to break through the cleaving Peng Dao art and surpass the Kuanpeng." "What?" Liu Yunpeng was shocked. He looked at Rock Sage in disbelief. Rock Sage was also a bit dazed. When he looked back, he was already 100 years old. His life had been ruined by the word pride and he needed a junior's reminder to wake him up. Thinking back, he had also asked for guidance from those whose cultivation was much higher than his. They only praised him and said that they needed time. As for him, he would definitely comprehend the severing Pengming Dao art and he would definitely be able to transcend. Thinking back to all of this, Rock Sage couldn't help but feel stupid. These were all perfunctory words. Those people realized how extraordinary he was and were afraid that he would surpass them. Why would they give him pointers? If it weren't for his stupidity, they might have directly killed him. Chapter 1484. At the seal of the spacetime passage, Chu Yang's cultivation recovered from the origin martial realm bit by bit. 9th level of the origin martial realm, 9th level of the spirit realm, 9th level of the ascending soul realm. In the end, he recovered to the 8th level of the spirit realm. At the same time, his martial arts cultivation in the God's world was also recultivated, just like in the heavenly soul world. Therefore, Chu Yang's realm did not improve, but his aura was more amazing than before. After sleeping for 3 days and 3 nights, when he woke up on the 4th day, both Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang felt that Chu Yang had changed. Chu Yang's aura became even more unfathomable. It also seemed to have become even more noble. It was like a flood dragon had transformed into a real dragon. His realm did not change, but the essence of his life had changed. It was incomparably distant and peaceful, allowing them to calm down in an instant and enter the state of enlightenment. Liu Yunpeng was the most surprised. He felt the aura of his grandfather, Sage Peng, from Chu Yang, but Chu Yang's aura was much weaker than Sage Peng's. Soul power. Chu Yang could do it when he was in the eastern wilderness, so he could immediately detect it after Sage Peng released it. However, his level was much lower than Sage Peng's. Sage Peng could turn a stone into a mouse and a mouse into a cat with just a thought. Soul power could affect matter. This was at least a saint realm. After Chu Yang woke up, he chatted with Parrot and the others for a while, then took Xia Wanjin, Xiong Longxiang, Liu Yunpeng and the others to the Sky Academy's inner courtyard. Chu Yang had killed too many people in the Sky Academy's assessment, so there were not enough people to enter the inner courtyard. Therefore, the Sky Academy had to lower the requirements and let the eliminated students take the assessment again, causing the new students to enter the inner courtyard much later. Today, the Sky Academy gathered the new students of the inner courtyard, congratulated them, and explained various matters. After that, these new students officially became inner courtyard students and entered the inner courtyard. Chu Yang didn't want to make an exception, so he hurried over. When he arrived, the meeting had just ended, and all the teachers of the Sky Academy had left. However, Chu Yang's arrival immediately attracted a lot of attention. "This is Chu Yang." Those who had never seen Chu Yang spoke in their hearts. They had heard of Chu Yang's great name for a long time, and the things he had done were all world-shaking. Chu Yang did not cup his fists and salute everyone like he had done before. This made the parrot very uncomfortable, because this was very unlike Chu Yang. After all, the situation was different now. Chu Yang realized that many of the hostile gazes had disappeared. Even if there were still many hostile gazes, they were all filled with fear. Thus, there was no need for him to taunt them and draw unnecessary hatred. Among the crowd, Chu Yang also found Shangguan Lan and Ji Yinmeng. The two women were so eye-catching that it was hard not to notice them. As for Shangguan Lan's safe return from the lost world, Chu Yang was also relieved. He didn't want to draw hatred, so he naturally didn't approach the two women. This surprised Shangguan Lan, Shangguan Mai, and Hong Neo, especially Shangguanlan, who was ready to blush. However, she only saw Chu Yang looking around the inner courtyard like a ruffian under the guidance of Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang. He didn't mean to tease her at all. The Sky Academy was a very large dimensional space. Once they entered it, it was like a plane was imprinted in their eyes. In front of them was a boundless open land, and behind them were countless huge palaces dotted in it. Chapter 1485. At that moment, due to the new students entering, silhouettes were flying around. As the silhouettes flew, the sound of air being torn apart rang out endlessly. There were even powerful dharmic powers colliding with each other. It seemed like the students of the inner yard were either fighting or cultivating. When he was about to enter the area where the inner yard students were located, 3 huge stone tablets stood there. Chu Yang could not help but stop and look at the first tablet on the right. In the middle of the tablet, there was an extremely bright golden light. Within the golden light were 2 magnificent words, mortal ranking. Mortal ranking, what the hell is this? What does it mean? Chu Yang turned his head and asked Xiong Longxiang beside him. Xiong Longxiang smiled, while Xia Wanjin's face darkened. Liu Yunpeng was dumbfounded as he looked at the two of them. Are they fighting to be the first to please Chu Yang? He had learned this from the rock sage, but where did these 2 fools learn this from? The mortal ranking can actually be called the transcendence ranking. Xiong Longxiang looked at the other 2 towering tablets and said, the other 2 are called the earth ranking and the heaven ranking. The earth ranking can also be called the nirvana ranking, while the heaven ranking can be called the life and death ranking. Chu Yang looked at the earth ranking and heaven ranking, and after hearing Xiong Longxiang's explanation, he more or less understood. Xiong Longxiang continued, although they can be called that, there is no realm requirement for the mortal ranking, earth ranking, or heaven ranking. As long as you feel that you can challenge them, you can challenge any of the tablets at any time. This is to encourage students to compete with each other. Chu Yang thought to himself. The inner yard, the elite yard, and the holy disciples all have these 3 tablets. After Xiong Longxiang finished speaking, he reminded Chu Yang, Master, you have to be careful. After you enter the inner yard, I'm afraid that there will be many people who want to challenge you. That's right. Xia Wanjin also nodded and said, Master, although you are very famous and have made a name for yourself in the outer yard, you are equivalent to nothing in the inner yard. They look down on the outer yard students, so they will not pay much attention to you, Master, nor will they feel how terrifying you are. Therefore, even if they are afraid of Master, I'm afraid they won't think highly of you. Waha, this is the best. The parrot on Chu Yang's shoulder laughed strangely and said, Someone has provoked Chu Hang. This will be a good show to watch. Chu Yang frowned slightly. He didn't like this result. After doing so much, was this all that he got? However, he understood that what Xiong Longxiang and Xia Wanjin said was the truth. The outer court and inner court were separated. It was like one was a junior high school and the other was a senior high school. No matter how strong a junior high student was, a senior high student wouldn't care. Chu Yang immediately paid attention to the rankings on the 3 stone tablets. The first one he looked at was the ranking list of young masters. Gong Sun Long. He soon found Gong Sun Long unexpectedly. Gong Sun Long wasn't able to enter the top 10. This made Chu Yang slightly surprised. Master, the top 10 are either extreme realm practitioners or divine arts practitioners. Generally speaking, they can kill people with their realms, Xia Wanjin said before Xiong Longxiang could. As for Gong Sun Long, he is not simple. It shouldn't be a problem for him to enter the top 10. That's right. Xiong Longxiang immediately said. Chen Zi of the Chenkuan party said that Gong Sun Long will be under him in the future. Both of them noticed that when Chu Yang saw Gong Sun Long's name, there was an obvious change. There was even a faint murderous intent. Although Xia Wanjin didn't know the reason, he knew that this was enough. However, Xiong Longxiang clearly knew that Chu Yang and Chen Zi had a grudge against each other. As for Gong Sun Long, it seemed like it was the same. Therefore, how could he give this opportunity to Xia Wanjin? Chen Zi. Chu Yang couldn't help but frown. Then, his black eyes looked at the towering giant stone tablet. He focused his gaze and saw that the stone tablet was shining with a golden light. Within those dazzling rays of light, there were numerous names that carried supreme glory as they were engraved on them. Chapter 1486. On the first position of the heaven list, Chu Yang saw the two words Qian Zi. This meant that even if Qian Zi was not the first person in the Sky Academy, he was at least the second or third person. He was not too surprised, but he thought to himself, this Qian Zi is really not simple. Chu Yang also took a glance at the terrestrial rankings. He roughly looked through the names on it. Finally, he learned that the Academy would give generous rewards to anyone who successfully challenged the 3 rankings. Like Chu Yang, many new students stared at the dazzling names in a daze. Although it was just a name, it was like a giant mountain that reached the sky. In the eyes of many students, it became extremely majestic and lofty. Boom! Suddenly, a huge sonic boom came from the depths of the inner courtyard. In the blink of an eye, a person appeared in front of the new students. It was a young man in a green shirt, about 20 years old. He had an extremely handsome face. His face was as white as jade, masculine, and extremely delicate. His slender figure and unique temperament faintly exuded from him revealed a powerful charm. As soon as he appeared, many girls among the new students saw him and suddenly blushed. They even seemed to not dare to continue looking at the young man after glancing at him, but they could not help secretly looking at him again. Their gazes were so shy that many girls blushed. Damn, what a pitilessly handsome man. He's so lethal. Chu Yang was unhappy and muttered, I'm also good-looking in this life. Why didn't I receive such treatment? When he noticed that Shangguan Lan's beautiful eyes were also looking at the young man, his displeasure reached its peak. This gigolo, I must seize the opportunity to beat him up. How dare you seduce my wife? Chu Yang could not help but say. The young man in a green shirt nodded at Shangguan Lan, but she ignored him. Then his eyes scanned the whole place as if he was looking for someone. When he found Chu Yang, his eyes suddenly flashed. You are Chu Yang. Damn it, I didn't look for trouble with you, but you came to find trouble with me. Chu Yang wanted to argue with him, but when he sensed the death chi emitted from the young man, he instantly felt depressed. Life and death realm cultivation, how can I argue with you? Humph. The young man in a green shirt immediately sneered at Chu Yang. His laughter, wrapped in vigorous spiritual power, rumbled like thunder and resounded in the area, attracting countless people's attention to him and Chu Yang. Yes, I am Chu Yang. Someone came to find trouble with him. How could Chu Yang be afraid? He was never afraid of trouble. Moreover, if he showed weakness now, he was afraid that there would be more people coming to find trouble with him. You're that thing again. Chu Yang's tone was unfriendly. How many times do I have to say this? Before you look for trouble, carefully consider your gender, habits, and so on. I invite you to be prepared to introduce yourself before you show your face. The young man in a green shirt did not care about such provocation. He only smiled and said, You're really surprising. You're only at the 9th level of the spirit stage. Chu Yang's understanding of Xiong Longxiang and Xia Wanjin's words deepened. The inner court really did not pay attention to the outer court. Even though he had caused chaos in the sky court, the young man in front of him did not seem to know about it. Otherwise, he would not be so surprised. The young man in a green shirt smiled playfully and said to himself, If Kong Jingsha knew that you were so weak, he would probably explode from anger. The order he chose was actually worse than you. There was a hidden meaning in his words. He was talking about why this guy came to find him. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. Thing, tell me your name. Chapter 1487. Chen Burang. It was only 3 words, but the entire audience was in an uproar. Loud exclamations instantly broke out. Chen Burang? Oh my God, is he the 6th person on the heaven list? At this moment, many people looked up at the heaven roll. There was no mistake about it. The 6th name on the heaven roll was Chen Burang's name. Many people had seen it just now, but they were still in disbelief. Could it be someone with the same name? After all, it's possible to have the same name. I didn't hear his tone just now. Even if it's someone with the same name, this Chen Burang must be the Chen Burang on the heaven list. Could there be a mistake? What kind of cultivation does the sixth person on the heaven list have? How could it be? However, that person couldn't continue speaking halfway. Chen Burang was powerful, but Chu Yang wasn't easy to bully either. Although he was only at the spirit stage and had just entered the inner court, his performance was even more amazing than the other inner court students. At least, that was the case in the outer court. However, it wasn't the case in the inner court. Very few people in the inner court paid attention to the outer court because of the difference in levels. The inner court students usually paid attention to the inner court, the elite students, or even the holy disciples. Therefore, even though Chu Yang had caused a huge commotion by using the space-time passage as an excuse, and most of the people in the inner yard knew about him, and even showed up to see Chu Yang, it didn't mean that they recognized Chu Yang, and they wouldn't waste so much energy on him. Even if there were, it was only a small minority. At that time, the entire Sky Academy was shaken. Not only did the inner courtyard disciples appear, but even the elite disciples and even the holy disciples appeared. However, Chu Yang was so arrogant, so which inner courtyard disciple or elite disciple made a move? None. Xiao Chang'e, Xiong Longxiang, and the others were all outer court students. In particular, Chu Yang was just a wild dog. The inner court students looked down on the outer court students, so why would they care about Chu Yang? No matter how big a commotion Chu Yang made, he was just a dog barking fiercely to them. Therefore, Chu Yang was probably the only one in the Sky Academy who had been noticed and targeted by the top figures of the inner yard as soon as he entered the inner yard. Given Chen Burang's cultivation, he could have become an elite student long ago. Chu Yang became more and more annoyed. He thought that he had already intimidated everyone in the Sky Academy. Everyone in the Sky Academy said that he was a big shot and even feared him a lot. However, it seemed that this was not the case. Whoosh, whoosh. A few more figures flew out from the depths of the inner court. Their auras were extremely powerful, and they were at least at the 7th or 8th level of the rebirth stage. There was a woman among them. She was tall and slim, and her face was extremely beautiful. She had long, ice blue hair, and a pair of beautiful eyes that were like two ice blue ice pearls. From afar, she looked like a 10,000-year-old iceberg, and the cold air she emitted made people's hearts palpitate. Innately cold, incomparably beautiful, her appearance instantly made people feel as if they were in the middle of winter. Her beautiful eyes flickered, and her ice blue eyes, which were like ice pearls, fell on Chu Yang. On the left side of the woman was a burly figure, whose body was emitting a pale yellow light. That kind of yellow light immediately reminded people of dead leaves and dead trees. His whole body seemed to be like a huge dead tree, but faintly, he gave people an extremely dangerous feeling. There was also a slender figure. It was a young man in a purple robe. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back and glanced around. A unique aura spread out. It was very arrogant, but obviously, it was also very powerful. You are Chu Yang. In addition to these three people, other voices sounded at about the same time. Chapter 1488. Not to mention Chen Burang, there were many others who came one after another. Chu Yang instantly felt as if someone had knocked over his sumptuous breakfast. His mood suddenly turned cloudy, followed by the rumbling of thunder. A storm was about to come. His mood instantly became extremely bad. He had done so many things, but the result was so little. This group of people seemed to want to take him down a notch or something. Anyway, they just wanted to make things difficult for him. Master, that woman is called Shi Jinghan. Rumor has it that she has the Ice Phoenix martial spirit. Her origin is not very clear, but she seems to be from the central state. She had a conflict with Shangguan Lan. Xiong Longxiang and Xia Wanjin's divine soul spread the news almost at the same time. As soon as they said it, Chu Yang understood why this woman was hostile to him. The one who looks like a withered tree is called Mu Zizhen. He has the withered glory martial spirit of Buddhism. 2 trees, one withered and one flourished. He is a good friend of the little monk Fa Zhao. Chu Yang now had a general understanding of why Mu Zizhen had come here. He had said that little Zen master Fa Zhao was going to watch with folded arms. So, Mu Zizhen naturally came to see what kind of virtue he had. The young man in purple is called Sui Zian. He comes from the U state, which is adjacent to the East state. His origin is somewhat mysterious, but his cultivation is very high. U state. What the fuck? Chu Yang cursed in his heart, son of a bitch, has this young master reached the level of being the enemy of the entire heavenly spirit world? As for the others, Chu Yang's face became more and more ugly after listening to Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang's explanation. Excluding Chen Burang, there were at least 3 people from the central state. In the blink of an eye, Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang's divine soul sent a message to each other. At their cultivation level, their divine soul was incomparably powerful. The matter of sending a message was completed in an instant. Haha. Chen Burang looked at Chu Yang mockingly and said, Chu Yang, it seems that I'm not the only one interested in you. Chu Yang picked his ears, tilted his head and smiled. Why don't you all call me a wild dog? You're making me feel uncomfortable. Chen Burang suddenly fell silent. Chu Yang smiled again. So you guys aren't deaf and mute. Then you should know the consequences of provoking me. Boom. A commotion instantly broke out amongst the group of new students. However, it only lasted for a moment before they calmed down. They had all seen how arrogant Chu Yang was. He had directly challenged a saint. As for Chen Burang and the others, why would he not dare to do so? Heh, I'm just here to take a look at how the fellow who wants me to go to hell looks like, Mu Zizhen said with a smile. What are you laughing at? Chu Yang glared at him. Can't you change the time? You're so aggressive. You're making me feel like I'm going to see the king of hell tonight. He pointed at Mu Zizhen and said, Buddha says that you are guilty. Many of the new students were no longer surprised by Chu Yang's behavior. This was still considered proper behavior. Mu Zizhen was still smiling. Then, he moved and flew to Chu Yang's side. This should be fine, right? Heh. Chu Yang smiled. Buddha says that you have great merit. Mu Zizhen had really seen Chu Yang's mouth. He immediately surrendered. You're good. I'll find a chance to beat you into a pig's head. Monk Mu, you're breaking the precepts. I'm not a monk. You have an affinity with Buddha. You're still a monk after all. It's just a matter of time. Your words are really infuriating. Mu Zizhen's eyes widened. Chu Yang cupped his fists and smiled. Thank you for the compliment. Chapter 1489. Chu Yang sneered and looked at Chen Burang. Then why don't you call me wild dog? Wild dog. Chen Burang didn't get angry and spat out these 2 words indifferently. Chen Burang, you have guts. Chu Yang said coldly. Today, I don't dare to believe that you have a rebirth or heavenly palace realm existence behind you. If I don't kill you, I will be your dog. Chu Yang wanted to save face. This was one of the reasons. However, Chu Yang didn't know the exact reason, but this Chen Burang was already on his death list. Chen Burang said casually, so what if I call you wild dog? I didn't humiliate you like that just now because I was worried about my image. Since you want me to call you that, then I will respectfully accept your request. As for killing me, as long as you have the ability, my head will be waiting for you to take it. Chu Yang was a little angry now. He wanted nothing more than to rush up and kill Chen Burang. He couldn't hold himself back and started to act willfully. He suddenly roared at the crowd, if you don't want to die, then get out of my way. I'm going to kill this little bastard. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, people moved like shadows, especially those who had seen Chu Yang's might. They fled quickly, and the crowd disappeared. Many people stared at Chu Yang and Chen Burang from afar. Chen Burang's expression finally turned ugly. It had to be said that Chu Yang was too arrogant and domineering. The aura of a bandit was extremely thick. If there was a disagreement, he would kill with a glare. Chu Yang said to Xia Wanjin, Xiong Longxiang, and the parrot, you guys stay away from me. When I show my power, it will shake the heavens and earth. If you guys are not careful, you will be turned into ashes. Flap, flap, flap. The parrot instantly knew what Chu Hang was going to do. It didn't want to be struck by lightning. It immediately flew out and shouted, Waha, Chu Hang, do well. Turn him into a beautiful Chen. Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang were speechless. They couldn't see through Chu Yang's means. It was not easy to deal with life and death realm experts. However, Chu Yang didn't do this to them before, but what was the result? The two of them immediately left. Mu Zizhen, Shi Jinghan, Sui Zian, and the others did not leave. Chu Yang said to Mu Zizhen, "For the sake of the little Zen master Fa Zhao, can you stay away when Monk Mu is watching the show? You're only at the spirit stage. So what if you have a big move?" Mu Zizhen curled her lips. "I can dodge it anyways. Are you going to scram or not?" Chu Yang was furious. He pointed at Mu Zizhen's nose and said, "You idiot, if it wasn't for little monk Fa Zhao, do you think I would care about you?" Mu Zizhen had a good temper. He shook his head and left with a bitter smile. Chu Yang looked at Shi Jinghan, Sui Zian, and the others. He smiled and said, "Everyone, I should have fulfilled my duty of informing you. Don't be unconvinced even if I die." After he finished speaking, he added, "Of course, I can beat you all up." Chu Yang's arrogance was something that many people were used to. However, Chen Burang and the others were furious. A student who had just entered the inner court and was only at the 8th spirit stage actually dared to order them around and provoke them. "You're just like this. You only know how to bluff. You don't even dare to admit to your fiancé. How much ability do you have?" Shi Jinghan suddenly spoke, causing Chen Burang to suddenly laugh. Hearing this, Chu Yang's lips curled up. He had already been sullen a few times. He didn't even dare to admit to his fiancée and didn't even dare to tell her what was going on. However, this wasn't his problem alone. He was worried that Shangguan Lan would be pressured, but it seemed that he couldn't hide it anymore. He didn't need to worry about it anymore. This was a good opportunity, and Shangguan Lan couldn't blame him. Haha. Chu Yang immediately laughed. "This is my personal matter. I didn't want to tell the world about my happiness. Since you want to know, then I'll tell you." Chapter 1490. Chu Yang was immensely proud of himself. His despicable voice resounded in this space, and clearly fell into everyone's ears. Countless eyes popped out in an instant, and all of them stared fixedly at Chu Yang. Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin were the most shocked. They adored Shangguan Lan and vaguely knew that Shangguan Lan seemed to have a fiancé, but they never thought that this person would be Chu Yang. How could Chu Yang and Shangguan Lan cross paths? All of a sudden, their hearts were the most complicated. No wonder Shangguan Lan didn't care about anyone. It turned out that it was because of this bastard. Their hearts were full of resentment. Ji Yinmeng was also stunned. This bastard is actually Shangguan Lan's fiancé. How is this possible? She also couldn't believe it. Shangguan Lan was firmly superior to her. It turned out that the bastard she looked down on was actually Shangguan Lan's fiancé. So, this bastard really looked down on her. Ji Yinmeng was angry, hateful, and annoyed. All kinds of emotions welled up in her heart. Especially when she thought that when this bastard Chu Yang took advantage of her, there was obviously a line that he would never cross. She felt even more upset in her heart. Bastard. She gritted her teeth. Many people suddenly heard that Chu Yang was Shangguan Lan's fiancé, and their minds were all stunned. This was definitely a shocking news for them, so they all looked at Chu Yang in disbelief and then looked at Shangguan Lan. The complex expression on their faces was really indescribable. Such news, for them, was simply like a toad eating swan meat, a fairy flower inserted in cow dung. It was heartbreaking. "Lan Lan, come over to me." Chu Yang smiled at Shangguan Lan and then said confidently, "I will prove that the most suitable person for you is me, and I will also prove that I am the best one. I will tell everyone in the world that your choices are never stupid, and they are never wrong, only you have a discerning eye. There are countless flowers and plants in the world, but which one of them is as intelligent as you? You chose me at once. I am such a beloved husband." Waha. Chu Yang definitely had the face of a villain intoxicated by success, which was extremely hateful. Shangguan Lan's face instantly turned red. She wished she could find a crack on the ground and hide in it. How could it be like this? Although she was very shy, she didn't hesitate at all under such circumstances. She flew straight towards Chu Yang and landed beside him. Chu Yang really wanted to hold her little hand, but he was afraid that she would be embarrassed, so he did not do so. He just said to the audience in an incomparably flamboyant manner, "Everyone, I am here to officially inform you that this is true." Then, he patted his chest and said, "I will also be responsible for her future happiness. As long as I am alive, she must be safe and sound. Whoever is envious, jealous, or unhappy, can come at me now." It was true. The audience was dead silent, and their jaws dropped. The first goddess of the Sky Academy was actually the fiancée of the wild dog. But how could this be doubted? Shangguanlan's behavior was the best proof. However, all of this was shattered in an instant. Chu Yang looked at Shi Jinghan and said to Shangguanlan, "My Lanlan, I say, you should give this girl a way out. How can you make her so ugly? Look, she's even starting to hate me, your husband. My wife, don't be so ruthless, and we will meet again in the future." Who was he talking about? Chapter 1491. While everyone was speechless, Chu Yang screamed like a pig being slaughtered. "Lan, be gentle. I was wrong, okay? Pinching was a natural ability for women. It didn't need to be learned." Shangguanlan gritted her teeth and couldn't help but secretly pinch Chu Yang's waist. Hearing Chu Yang's scream, she immediately let go with a red face. Chu Yang and Shangguanlan were so intimate that the calmness on Chen Burang's face disappeared. His eyes were very malicious, and his expression was extremely cold. Another person who was particularly upset was Ji Yinmeng. The relationship between Chu Yang and Shangguanlan was far beyond her imagination. At least, if she were Shangguanlan, she would have run away just now. How could she be like Shangguanlan, obedient to Chu Yang? She had a great sense of crisis. "Humph!" Shi Jinghan coldly snorted. She sneered at Shangguanlan and said, "Shangguanlan, you actually chose such a shameless person as your husband. What a joke." Before Chu Yang could speak, Shangguanlan said coldly, "How I choose is not something you can judge. You'd better pay attention to your identity and the tone of your voice. I can tolerate you in the past, but I'm afraid I can't today." Shangguanlan's voice was very pleasant, but very domineering. Shi Jinghan was furious, even exasperated, but she didn't dare to be presumptuous. "Back off." Shangguanlan spat out 2 words. Shi Jinghan struggled for a moment and retreated far away. Then, she looked at Sui Zian and said, "If you don't want to die, you can leave too." Sui Zian didn't say a word from beginning to end, but when he heard such a sentence, his whole body trembled. His eyes were filled with despair, as if he couldn't believe that Shangguanlan would say such heartless words. However, he just glanced at Shangguanlan and immediately retreated. Sui Zian also knew Shangguanlan when he was young, but Shangguanlan only stayed in his house for a short time and then left. When he saw Shangguanlan again, Sui Zian was stunned and could not extricate himself. Therefore, when Shangguanlan saw that he was in love with her, she told him that they were engaged. This was like a bolt from the blue to him. Today, not only did he want to see what the person who made Shangguanlan miss looked like, but he also wanted to see what was so great about him. However, Shangguanlan did not allow it and even said such harsh words to him. In other people's eyes, it didn't matter whether these were harsh words or not. However, in Sui Zian's eyes, these harsh words were enough. "Chen Burang, do you want to spar with me?" Boom. Shangguanlan released her aura. Suddenly, a breath of life rushed out of her body and formed the shape of a phoenix. Her aura instantly spread out, causing everyone to be shocked. It was as if they were looking at a young girl who had suddenly become a supreme empress. The change in Shangguanlan's temperament was truly shocking. Life and death realm, life and death realm. Everyone was caught off guard by the magnificent change. Everyone was shocked. Most people only thought that Shangguanlan's cultivation was only at the soul amalgamation realm. Who would have thought that Shangguanlan's cultivation was actually so high? It was simply unbelievable. Chu Yang was also very surprised. He was almost certain that Shangguanlan had made a major breakthrough in the severed world. Previously, although Shangguanlan had hidden her cultivation, she was definitely not at the life realm. When Shangguanlan's cold voice entered his ears, Chen Burang's heart fiercely twitched and his face burned. It was as if he had been ruthlessly slapped in the face. His heart was filled with resentment and frustration. This woman, for the sake of a mere wild dog, had publicly slapped him in the face. Chapter 1492. Wild dog, do you want a woman to stand up for you and hide behind a woman? Just now, all the words you swore were all bullshit. Chen Borang bypassed Shangguan Lan and pointed the spearhead at Chu Yang. Any man would not be able to stand being provoked like this. Even if the wild dog held back, that would be fine, or it would be for the best. Such a man would appear to be too spineless, too irresponsible. Hee. Chu Yang sneered in his heart and did not answer immediately. He knelt down to Shangguan Lan. My empress is mighty, waha. Shangguan Lan's eyes darkened. She wanted to kick him to death. How could he do this in front of so many people? Waha, the empress is mighty. As soon as the parrot laughed strangely, Chu Yang reprimanded it. Little bitch, what are you doing? Don't you know that I'm avoiding the topic just now? If you join in, the topic will really be completely changed. How can hero Chen Borang continue to be embarrassed? The parrot did not expect this. It widened its eyes and then looked at Chen Borang. Waha, you're so awesome. Why did you immediately stop? This divine bird is laughing to death. It forced itself to laugh at Chen Borang, which was not very lethal. Chu Yang stood up from the ground and said directly, Hero Chen, this dog is a gigolo, a professional sponger. So what if you're envious and jealous? If you have the ability, you can also marry a capable wife. We're both spongers. Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to see two wives fighting endlessly? You actually fell for such a man. Chen Borang directly ridiculed Shangguan Lan, but there was no need for Shangguan Lan to refute. Chu Yang said with a smile, she likes me, which proves how bad and how much of a failure you are. For someone like you to hurriedly attack me like this, I can tell at a glance that you don't have any standards. You look like you're rotten on the inside, but I'm rotten on the outside. The difference is like heaven and earth. How laughable. You're so shameless, yet you still have the nerve to flatter yourself. You've really broadened my horizons. Chen Borang laughed coldly. People like you can be found everywhere in the world. You're so lowly that your stench is unbearable. Chu Yang crossed his arms and listened attentively. As soon as Chen Borang paused, he immediately said, Hey handsome Chen, please continue your criticism. Do you think I'll lose a piece of meat? Hee. Many people were amused. That bastard Chu Yang wasn't someone who could be dealt with in a normal way. Now, he was in for a beating. They were secretly delighted. Previously, they had also found it inconceivable. How could there be such a plaything like Chu Yang in this world? He was laughed at until his teeth fell out, but he was not ashamed of it. Instead, he was proud of it. All of your ridicule and abuse had all disappeared into thin air. Now, Chen Borang and the other geniuses of the inner yard began to feel Chu Yang's elegance. They were sure that they were caught off guard. Chen Borang narrowed his eyes. Wild dog, didn't you just say you were going to kill me? Lan, go beat Hero Chen into a dead hero. Chu Yang directly ordered Shangguan Lan, which made Shangguan Lan roll her eyes. She had never seen such a shameless person. How could he be so self-righteous, proud, and smug? Chen Borang was finally angered. When Shangguan Lan made a move, he could only run like a rat. Chu Yang was extremely happy. He had been influenced by the saying, is face that important? Can it be eaten? If he wasn't careful, he could even be insulted. I'm living off a woman. What can you do about it? I'm using my Lan as a shield. What can you do about it? Chu Yang said casually, showing his white teeth. He looked at Chen Borang with a smile. It was obvious that he was provoking Chen Borang. If Chen Borang had the guts, come and beat him until he cried. Then you can be a coward for the rest of your life. Chen Borang didn't intend to leave, but Chu Yang directly said, 6th on the heaven list, take care. I won't send you off. Chapter 1493. Shangguan Lan, is this what your fiancé is like? Let me kill him, and you'll serve me. A cold snort was suddenly emitted from outside the arena. It suddenly exploded in everyone's hearts, causing everyone to be abruptly startled. Before they could look over, a wave of fragrant wind instantly assaulted them. Following which, a chirping voice was also transmitted into their ears. When they looked over again, they saw a young man with a devilish face, surrounded by 7,000 or 8,000 charming women, walking out of the field. The rest of the women were trying their best to stick to him all the time. There were 2 women who were wrapped around his legs like 2 snakes. Their faces were stuck to his lower abdomen as they licked him incessantly. There was another woman who was carried on his back like a bundle. Her legs were wrapped around his chest as if she was performing acrobatics. There was a black gold line in the middle of the young man's forehead, which was particularly eye-catching. He hugged the women on his left and right, and his big hands played with the women in his arms in front of everyone, completely ignoring them. Who is this? All the people present could not help looking at the young man, feeling that he was even weirder than Chu Yang. If you want to have fun, do you have to go to this extent? Will you die if you leave the women for a while? In addition, everyone also found that although these women's behavior was unbearable, their clothes were absolutely not revealing. The beauty of their bodies was well hidden, and the people present could not take advantage of them at all. Hiss, do you really know how to have fun? Chu Yang looked at the young man and could not help but marvel in his heart. He had done it to the extreme. However, as soon as he arrived, Chu Yang found that Shangguanlan's aura suddenly became cold, and a burst of anger gushed out. Later, he found that Ji Yinmeng was extremely disgusted with the young man. Her face became extremely ugly, and she could not help but take a step back. Chen Burang's pupils shrank. This thing seems to be not simple. Chu Yang's heart sank. Master, this is young Master Long. No one knows his origin, but he is extremely strong, and he loves women. In the Sky Academy, he has slept with no less than 100 girls. Those who refused to submit were almost all killed by him. Xia Wanjin's voice rang out. In addition, any woman who was favored by him would be killed immediately if they dared to show even the slightest bit of their beauty or flirtatiousness to other men. Thus, I've heard that many people have died at his hands. This is a pervert. He's extremely possessive. When Chu Yang heard this, he roughly understood what was going on. What surprised him the most was that he couldn't see Long Xiaojuan's cultivation base. When Long Xiaojun arrived, he immediately smiled evilly at Shangguanlan. Shangguanlan, serve me now, and you still have a chance. Do you understand? After saying that, he looked at Shi Jinghan again. I'll give you 3 days. If you don't sleep with me, I'll go find you. Don't say that I'm rough then. After that, his target became Ji Yinmeng. Suddenly, he sneered. I heard that you've been defiled. Let me defile you, and then I'll kill you. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death. The whole place fell into a dead silence. In an instant, they felt that Chu Yang's overbearingness was nothing but bullshit. Chu Yang's overbearingness was not something that could be called overbearingness if you didn't provoke him. Long Xiaojun was completely different. He could do whatever he wanted, and if you didn't submit, you would die. He was even more powerful than the emperor. That thing, please pay attention to the occasion when you're disgusted. Suddenly, a cold voice rang out. Everyone was shocked and immediately looked over. It was Chu Yang. Chu Yang really couldn't stand it. Chapter 1494. Oh. Long Xiaojun hadn't even looked at Chu Yang when he arrived. Now, he looked at Chu Yang like a lion awakening from its slumber. His body emitted a powerful aura that covered the sky. Immediately, the smell of blood entered everyone's nostrils. This smell was incomparably shocking. It even pierced into every thought of his soul. Even someone like Chen Burang couldn't help but tremble. Needless to say, the others all realized how terrifying Long Xiaojun was. Is he half a step into the saint realm? Chu Yang's pupils slightly shrank. This Long Xiaojun was indeed rude and overbearing. But, his strength was also absolutely rude and overbearing. You're strong, but I promise you'll regret it if you try to be arrogant in front of me. Chu Yang no longer had the mischievous smile he had at the beginning. He said in a heavy voice. He wasn't joking. Long Xiaojuan's cultivation level was high, but he wasn't ready to become a saint. If he triggered the lightning punishment, Long Xiaojun would definitely die. Hihi, you've got guts. If I kill you directly, you'll die too easily. I have to think about how to make you suffer. As Long Xiaojun spoke, his mind flickered and the aura he had released was withdrawn back into his body at an extremely fast speed. Many people felt as if space was about to collapse. Their souls were about to be sucked out and swallowed into Long Xiaojun's body. Of course, Chu Yang could also feel this kind of horror. Just by releasing and withdrawing his aura, in his spiritual world, there was a feeling that space was about to collapse. The strength of the divine soul martial path. It was evident. You don't seem to understand human language. Chu Yang wasn't afraid. You bastard, how dare you molest my woman in front of me? You can't be forgiven. Long Xiaojun, someone actually dares to talk to you like that. You didn't even kill him on the spot. You want me to submit to you? Shi Jinghan suddenly sneered. Don't even think about it. This woman was vicious. She wanted to use someone else to do her dirty work. However, Chu Yang was interested in this, so he did not say anything. He would deal with her later. Long Xiaojun smirked at Shi Jinghan and said coldly, I don't need you to teach me how to do things. It's your honor to be my woman. Don't be so shameless. Also, you said that you want him to die. Just ask me directly. Since when did my woman need to beat around the bush? After Long Xiaojun finished lecturing Shi Jinghan, he looked coldly at Chu Yang. What should I call you? Wild dog. If I say I want you to live a life worse than death, you will. Now, kneel over here and be my dog. When I am happy, I may let you die a quick death. Do you want to compete in arrogance? Chu Yang sneered and said, arrogance. In this world, I'm the only one who is worthy. Who do you think you are? When your grandfather was acting crazy, where were you? Haha. Long Xiaojun couldn't help but laugh. There's actually someone who dares to speak to me like this. I haven't seen someone like you for many years. I should treat you like a dog. However, your cultivation is only at the 8th level of the spirit stage. It's a bit low. You're affecting my face. You won't understand even if I explain it to you. Chu Yang said, do you think that you're invincible just because you're half a step into the saint stage? I'll let you see what I'm capable of. He pointed at the woman in Long Xiaojun's arms and secretly used a space-time technique. He said to her, come here. Chapter 1495. Master. Whoosh. When the woman's sweet voice entered his ears, Long Xiaojun's expression changed drastically. Rumble. His body rumbled like endless thunderstorms. Then, the tendons and veins in his body cracked like the strings of a heavenly zither being plucked. The sound of a surging river also came out of his body like a flash flood. An intense, masculine blood chi gushed out from the top of his head like a whale spraying water. It seemed to distort the void. A series of blood-curdling screams were heard. The women beside him were all blown away. Their bodies exploded, and they turned into corpses in an instant. The two women who were wrapped around his legs and licking his lower abdomen, as well as the woman who was carried on his back like a bag, exploded into blood mist. Not even their bones were left behind. Shangguan Lan and Ji Yinmeng's faces suddenly changed. With a bang, Shi Jinghan fell from mid-air like a bird with broken wings. Thump! Thump! Chen Borang retreated a few steps in the air. His face turned deathly pale. The crowd in the distance felt as if the heavens were enraged, and they couldn't help but tremble. At this moment, many people were so terrified that they did not even dare to look at Long Xiaojun. Chu Yang's actions had definitely touched Long Xiaojun's reverse scale. Of course, Chu Yang knew this. Wang. Suddenly, Long Xiaojun stared at Chu Yang like a giant beast. His eyes became bloodshot in an instant. Then, they turned into two balls of blood, and emitted traces of blood-red light. Even someone with a high cultivation base would feel a chill run down their spine when they saw his pair of blood-red eyes. No one had expected Long Xiaojun to be so powerful and terrifying when he was angry. Dragons have reverse scales, those who touch them will die. After the transformation, Long Xiaojun pointed his finger at Chu Yang and let out a roar like a lion. In an instant, everyone's mind was buzzing, and their ears were echoing with these words. Wild dog, how dare you touch my woman? No one dares to do that. No one dares to have designs on my woman. Today, you actually did something unforgivable. Your death is inevitable. I will slaughter your entire family and exterminate 10 generations of your family. Long Xiaojuan's tone was filled with intense resentment, endless malevolence, and incomparable viciousness. Ha ha. Chu Yong laughed out loud. You bastard, when you were flirting with me and even threatening my woman, did you ever think about my feelings? I can't take it anymore. What kind of dog is this? How dare you act so fierce in front of me? Do you really think that I can't kill you? Chu Yang immediately broke through to the 9th level of the spirit stage. In an instant, the 7 worlds within his body lit up like 7 suns. It was as if the 7 stars had formed a line and shot a beam of light into his forehead. Boom! Boom! It was as if numerous stars had fallen into the ocean. The air around him was like seawater, forming a shocking tsunami that soared into the sky and surged in all directions. The void hummed, and it was as if the seawater had turned into a tsunami. The scene was incomparably shocking, and it was shocking to the eyes. Lightning calamity. Long Xiaojun was extremely sharp. He immediately knew what the wild dog was going to do. His expression changed, and the malevolence on his face turned into horror. His blood-red eyes trembled as he roared, "Wild dog, I can kill you before you trigger the lightning calamity. You can give it a try." Chu Yang's figure disappeared into thin air. Shortly after, Shangguan Lan also disappeared. She had been stored in his interspatial ring. The parrot and the others were the same. In an instant, everyone related to Chu Yang had disappeared. He was already prepared and had a thorough plan. If I can't kill your friends, then I'll slaughter everyone here. Chapter 1496. What did you just call me, Long Xiaojun? Hearing Long Xiaojuan's threat, Long Xiaojuan's expression changed again. Wild dog. Long Xiaojun had just called Chu Yang a wild dog. Now he was threatening Chu Yang with the lives of people from the eastern wilderness. Wasn't that ridiculous? Wild dog killed so many students from the Sky Academy in the outer yard assessment. Maybe the more I kill, the happier the wild dog will be. As soon as Long Xiaojun thought of this, laughter was heard. Ha ha. The mocking laughter made the students from the Sky Academy feel their scalps tingle. They were terrified because they might become the victims of the fight between the two. As for Long Xiaojun, the laughter seemed to be encouraging Chu Yang. He said, "Kill, kill quickly. I won't be happy if you don't kill. If you can kill everyone in the East Continent, I'll build a monument for you." Sure enough, Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang were not surprised by the current situation. Just like before, they thought they were foolproof, but the result was always the opposite of what they had imagined. Therefore, they could understand Long Xiaojuan's feelings. However, although they were all in the same boat, they were just here to watch the fun. Therefore, they were in a different mood. They were extremely happy. They recognized Chu Yang as their master, so they would be criticized by many people. But in the future, no one would say anything. After all, even Long Xiaojun was defeated. Wild dog, do you really think I can't find you? When I find you, I'll tear you apart. Long Xiaojun roared. His evil face became even more ferocious. Ha ha. Chu Yang could only chuckle mockingly at this moment. Finding his location? Dream on. He had been worried about this before. But after Ice Kuan spoke, he was not worried at all. Ice Kuan was a real sage. Although it was only a remnant soul, it was enough to deal with Long Xiaojun, who was only half a step into the saint realm. Long Xiaojun could never compare to a real saint. Very soon, Long Xiaojuan's expression changed. Even though his strength was much higher than Chu Yang's, he had nowhere to vent his strength. Hero Long, keep roaring. If you don't roar, it won't be good for the atmosphere. Chu Yang began to slap him in the face. So what if you're half a step into the saint plane? You're still not a saint. Long Xiaojun did not respond to such humiliation. Instead, he released his terrifying spiritual power, which buzzed unceasingly in the void. It was clearly visible that his spiritual power had spread out in all directions, and was searching inch by inch. However, even so, he could not find Chu Yang. Impossible, How is this possible? Chen Borang shuddered. He had the same idea as Long Xiaojun, but he couldn't accept the result. Such a method didn't work at all. What? Great swordsman Chen, are you scared now? With his keen senses, Chu Yang immediately sensed Chen Borang's shock. His voice came from the void, clearly informing Long Xiaojun that he was within the range of Long Xiaojun's search. However, what can you do, Long Xiaojun? Long Xiaojun, aren't you arrogant? Why don't you find someone? Great swordsman Chen, this is supposed to teach you how to be a man. But great swordsman Long suffered for your sake. Don't you think it's appropriate for you to express your gratitude to him? Chen Borang was mocked in front of everyone. His handsome face seemed to be covered by a layer of dark clouds, but he didn't dare to say a word. Chapter 1497. Buzz. Chen Borang's mind exploded. After Chu Yang dragged Long Xiaojun into the Thunder Tribulation, he could come to him at any time and drag him into the Thunder Tribulation as well. He was not ready to break through to the next realm. If he did, the consequences would be unimaginable once he was dragged into the Thunder Tribulation. Thank you very much, Hero Long. Chen Borang swallowed the humiliation and compromised. Everyone who heard this could not help but be surprised. He compromised just like that. Even someone as powerful as Chen Borang had to lower his noble head in front of Chu Yang. Long Xiaojun was so angry that he almost blacked out. Then he sneered, "Wild dog, I can't find you. Can't I leave? The only reason I haven't left yet is because I want to slaughter a dog like you." His speed was not something that Wild Dog could catch up with. That was what he was counting on. Immediately, Chen Borang's heart leaped with joy. He felt that his compromise just now was extremely foolish. He coldly said, "Wild Dog, I, Chen Borang, will remember what you've done today. I will return it 100 times over." Ha. Chu Yang laughed sarcastically again. "Hero Long, why don't you try to escape? What's the fun if you don't run?" Speed. How could Chu Yang's speed be inferior to anyone? Long Xiaojun had mastered the space-time secret skill recently. Not to mention the Ice Leviathan, he could not catch up with the Flood Dragon Martial Soul, which had just turned into the Frost Spacetime Dragon. Humph. Although it's a little embarrassing, I'll show you what speed is. Long Xiaojun said in a muffled voice, "Wild Dog, all schemes and tricks are nothing in front of real strength." Swoosh. Long Xiaojun did not move, but his figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. No one knew where he had gone, nor did they know which direction he had fled in. They didn't even know how he had left. Hiss. The students of the Sky Academy couldn't help but gasp at the same time. What an amazing speed. What a terrifying speed. How can he catch up with him? Wild Dog, no matter how strong you are, what's the use? Amidst the exclamations of the crowd, a loud laugh came from the south. Ha, Wild Dog, I'm telling the truth. Hee. Chu Yang's mocking laughter also came from there. Although it was very soft, everyone heard it. How is this possible? How is this possible? Long Xiaojun was so fast that he couldn't even see how he left. How could he not shake off Chu Yang? Just how terrifying was Chu Yang's speed? Shua. Chen Borang's expression suddenly changed. Once again, he thought that his plan had succeeded. He thought that he had a foolproof plan, but the result was the same again. Wild Dog, you. Long Xiaojun was completely flustered. He probably had the same thoughts as Chen Borang. Hero Long, why don't you continue to show me your arrogance? Chu Yang sneered, "You actually dare to sell your arrogance in front of me, what are you? The word arrogance is simply a disgrace to you, Hero Long." Chu Yang was really domineering to reprimand Long Xiaojun like this. Everyone was speechless. Long Xiaojun was so arrogant and powerful before, but he was still suppressed by Chu Yang and didn't have the slightest bit of temper. Chu Yang's mocking voice soon sounded again, "You rely on your cultivation to bully the weak. You call that arrogance? You punch a 3-year-old child and kick a century-old man, and you're still complacent and call yourself arrogant. You don't deserve it, bah." Long Xiaojun was speechless and blushed. Rumble. Thunder rumbled. In the direction where Long Xiaojun was, people could clearly see that the thundercloud was rapidly forming. The thunder tribulation was about to fall. Chapter 1498. Enough. How long are you going to make trouble? Along with the voice, a very elegant old man appeared. Immediately, the people present cheered. Saint Master, it's Saint Master, the Saint Master has appeared. It's great that the Saint Master has appeared. In this way, we don't have to worry about being involved. The Saint Master has appeared. Does the wild dog still dare to be arrogant? Boom. The thunder turned the hubbub into a dead silence. Chu Yang didn't answer, but the thunder became more frequent and louder. Chu Yang, how dare you? The Saint Master was furious, but Chu Yang didn't respond at all. The rumbling thunder made the world seem even more silent. Chu Yang, don't you even take me seriously? The Saint Master's angry voice became extremely cold, and every word was as cold as winter. Chu Yang was hiding in the void. Hearing the cold voice, he immediately sneered. The Saint Master only came out at this time. What did he do just now? He finally said, "Hero Long, I'll teach you how to be arrogant today." After that, he directly ridiculed the Saint Master. "Old dog, what do you have that deserves my attention? Is it your character or your virtue? Why don't you tell me about it so that I'll take you seriously? Old dog." Chu Yang actually called the Saint Master an old dog directly. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Even the saint didn't dare to do this to the students of the Sky Academy. The Saint Master trembled with anger. In front of the students of the Sky Academy, Chu Yang dared to provoke His Majesty. However, he couldn't do anything at all. He was even shocked to find that it was impossible for him, who was proficient in spatial skills, to determine Chu Yang's position. When the thunder tribulation came, he could naturally determine Chu Yang's position, but it was too late at that time. "Chu Yang, what do you want?" The Saint Master could only hold back and negotiate with Chu Yang. "Haha." Chu Yang laughed again. "Old dog, what do I want?" "I want to ask you, what do you want?" The sacred expert didn't say anything. His brows furrowed, discovering that this wild dog was incomparably difficult to deal with. Chu Yang did not remain silent, but continued to interrogate. "Old dog, where were you when I was being humiliated by Hero Long? Swordsman Long, where were you when you said that you wanted me to beg for death? When I was about to kill someone, you came out." He said in an incomparably vicious tone. "Old dog, are you planning to go against me? Or should I say that I'm easier to bully? Now, you actually have the face to ask me what I want. Do you still have the face to ask?" The students of the Sky Academy were shocked again. "That's right. You didn't say anything before. Why do you say something now? However, without skill, what could you do when the other party was like this? You couldn't even let out a fart, so how could you be like Chu Yang, questioning the sacred expert, smacking the sacred expert's face until he was speechless? Have you thought about the consequences of killing him?" The Sage Master suddenly said softly, "Chu Yang, I'm doing this for your own good." Haha. Chu Yang laughed loudly as if he had heard a great joke. "Old dog, you're really shameless." Then, he said to everyone in the Sky Academy, "Which one of you bastards dares to say that I'm shameless in the future? Grandpa Chu will be angry with you. Chu Yang, don't let your emotions affect your decisions." The sacred expert spoke again. Chu Yang sneered even more in his heart. Did the sacred expert really take him as a 3-year-old child? Haha. He laughed loudly again. "Old dog, it seems that you really think that I'm easier to bully. You actually bullied my intelligence. I admire your courage, haha." Chapter 1499. Haha. Chu Yang laughed even louder. "Kill me and you'll be fine. Is this your logic? Old dog, you dare to threaten me? I'll kill you too. I'm just speaking the truth." The Sage Master panicked. If he was caught in the lightning tribulation, he might not be able to protect himself. "I'm also speaking the truth." Chu Yang didn't laugh again. Long Xiaojun should have a shocking identity, but so what? If he didn't kill Long Xiaojun today, Long Xiaojun would come to kill him the next day. How could he not kill him? What was there to be afraid of? Rumble. The thunder cloud grew thicker, and the thunder became louder. Actually, Chu Yang could summon the lightning tribulation with just a thought. It was just that he didn't want to expose his identity as Eastern Wilderness 002 so directly. If they could be 100% sure that he was Eastern Wilderness 002, that would be their ability. Even so, they had to put in a lot of effort. Chu Yang was willing to see them work hard. The wild dog was stubborn. The Sage Master panicked. Chu Yang, if you kill Long Xiaojun, not only will you die, your friends and family, even Sima Jian will die. Chu Yang laughed angrily. Old dog, is this the time to worry about others? You can't even take care of yourself, but you still dare to bark at me and threaten me. You really don't know how to write the word death. Everyone was scared out of their wits. Chu Yang was actually going to kill the Sage Master. Crazy, he was really crazy. Just as Chu Yang said, he wanted to teach Long Xiaojun how to be crazy. Bullying the weak wasn't a skill. Bullying the strong was a skill. In front of an expert like the Sacred Expert, acting recklessly and without any misgivings, doing as one pleased, this was madness, this was true madness. Rumble. The Sage Master was at his wits' end. He quickly retreated amidst another thunder. Long Xiaojun, who had high hopes for the Sage Master, felt his heart skip a beat. He also began to flee frantically. The sound of air being torn apart rang out, accompanied by the sound of sonic booms and thunder. Run. That's what makes it interesting. That's how a cat plays with a mouse. Chu Yang said with a mocking smile, looking at you running around like a mouse in fear. I finally know how a cat feels. This is really interesting. Long Xiaojun kept flying towards the Sage Master. His intention was clear. If you don't have the ability to save me, then you'll die too. The Sage Master's expression was incomparably ugly, and he was so angry that he was trembling. In the Sky Academy, every time he showed up, he would be greeted with awe and admiration. However, this time, he was like a mouse, fleeing frantically and trying to get away from him. He couldn't help but recall the situation in the Seven Wheels demonic domain. However, this time, he was in an even more sorry state than he was in the Seven Wheels demonic domain. He was even more disgraceful. Haha. Chu Yang wasn't in a hurry to trigger the thunder punishment, because it was too interesting to chase the two of them like this. He even laughed loudly, and his voice resounded in the thunder. Hero Long, do you know what it means to be arrogant? In order to teach you what it means to be arrogant, I've shown you enough, haven't I? The scene really turned into a cat playing with a mouse. Who would have thought that it would end up like this? The Sage Master appeared, but it was useless. He was even dragged into it and couldn't even protect himself. In the space ring, Xia Wanjin, Xiong Longxiang, and Liu Yunpeng saw and heard everything. They saw the awe-inspiring Long Xiaojun and the sanctimonious Sage Master running around like headless flies. It was really a bit messy. It turned out that Chu Yang, this bastard, their master, didn't even use his trump card to deal with them. They even realized that Chu Yang could have triggered the thunder punishment long ago, but he didn't do it in order to tease Long Xiaojun and the Sage Master. Miserable, really miserable, even more miserable than them. Brother Yang, let him go this time. Suddenly, Shangguanlan's voice came from the space ring into Chu Yang's ears, and also into everyone's ears. Shangguanlan. It was an extremely unexpected answer. Chapter 1500. Let Hero Long go? Chu Yang was very surprised. Shangguanlan should know how dangerous it would be if he let Long Xiaojun go. Even so, she still said so. It seemed that Long Xiaojun's background was really scary. But he was not sure. He said loudly, Lan Lan, if you don't kill a snake, it will bite. Don't be so kind. If I am killed by Hero Long, you will become a widow. Naturally, Chu Yang wanted everyone to hear it. He was also looking for a way out for himself. Otherwise, wouldn't it be very sudden and embarrassing for him to get off the stage? What widow? Shangguanlan couldn't help but want to spit at Chu Yang. She was not officially married to Chu Yang yet. Brother Yang, you don't have to worry. As long as Long Xiaojun agrees, there will be no problem. What's going on? Is Long Xiaojun very trustworthy? Chu Yang was a little confused. My Lan Lan, can you be more serious? It's not good to joke about your husband's life. Especially with my bad temper, I won't be happy if I don't kill Hero Long at this time. He was still talking to her. Shangguan Lan said angrily, Brother Yang, are you going to listen to me? Yes, yes. Chu Yang raised his little white flag. I am the best husband in the world. How can I not listen to my wife? Shangguan Lan had her reasons, but he was very unhappy. He poked Long Xiaojun and shouted, I say, Long Xiaojun, are you deaf? I have never seen such a stupid person like you. Don't you know how to play along? Let me tell you, don't give me a chance to turn against you. Then, even the gods can't save you. I will let bygones be bygones. Long Xiaojun gritted his teeth and said, I will definitely make trouble for you. What do you mean bygones be bygones? Chu Yang shouted, I will let bygones be bygones. You are asking me to let bygones be bygones. Are you stupid? Long Xiaojun was trembling. He gritted his teeth and said, I made a mistake today. If I can save my life, I will not do anything bad to you. You really look stupid. Chu Yang cursed, is that the point? You're so disrespectful to my Lan Lan and Miss Ji. Shouldn't you say something? My Lan Lan. Miss Ji. In comparison, Ji Yinmeng suddenly felt a little heartbroken. Miss Shangguan, I'm sorry. Miss Ji, I'm sorry. It wasn't easy for Long Xiaojun to go this far, but Chu Yang wasn't done yet. You took advantage of my fiancé in front of me. The person you should apologize to the most is me. Chu Yang, I'm sorry. Hero Long, you're really something. This requires a capable person, or at the very least, someone important. Chu Yang revealed himself and said to Long Xiaojun, however, I still have one thing to say. In the future, don't say arrogant as crazy. He was giving Long Xiaojun a chance to launch a sneak attack, a chance to change his mind. However, Long Xiaojun's teeth were gritted so hard that they were about to pop out of their sockets. He wanted nothing more than to kill Chu Yang, but he didn't do anything. Chu Yang was surprised. He muttered to himself, it seems that Lan Lan's words weren't without reason. Whoosh! His figure disappeared once again, and very soon, after a crisp sound, a blood-curdling scream resounded. Shi Jinghan was sent flying by that slap. Then, Chu Yang appeared and stepped on her chest. He coldly said, You want to kill me. So, I want to kill you. That shouldn't be a problem, right? He began to settle the score. Chapter 1501. In an instant, Chen Burang's body suddenly stiffened, and all his movements stopped abruptly. He was not as fast as Chu Yang, so where could he escape to? If Chu Yang chased after him, he would not be able to escape in the end. Brother Yang, let her go. I have no intention of killing her. Shangguan Lan spoke again. Chu Yang immediately said, Lan Lan, why do I feel like you're going to pull out my teeth? You can't kill this one, you can't kill that one. You're making me look bad. You're a man. Don't you feel ashamed to kill a woman? Shangguan Lan found that Chu Yang was too murderous, but she also knew why he did this. If he didn't kill her, he would leave a lot of enemies behind. Miss Shangguan's words make sense. You don't want to become a Buddha by killing her, Mu Zizhen said. He naturally knew the conversation between Chu Yang and the little Zen master Fa Zhao. Monk Mu, it's none of your business. Chu Yang glared at him. How dare you say you're not a monk? Bang! As he spoke, he kicked Shi Jinghan away and looked at Chen Burang. Hero Chen, why aren't you coming over? Chen Burang could only follow the order. At this time, Chu Yang said to Shangguan Lan, Lan Lan, can we kill this one? No. Shangguan Lan rolled her eyes. Our parents know his parents. Not for the sake of the monk, but for the sake of the Buddha. Chu Yang knew this would be the result. He smiled and said, so it's because of my father-in-law and mother-in-law. This reason is valid. However, this thing must be paid a price. Hero Chen, please kneel down. Shangguan Lan couldn't say anything. She had just said very clearly, but Chu Yang still refused to let go. It was useless to say anything more. Are you sure you want to humiliate me completely? Chen Burang did not panic. He even looked very calm and said coldly. Chu Yang wasn't afraid of him. If he wanted to make an example out of Chen Burang, he would make an example out of him. I'm sure, very sure. He smiled and said, so what if I humiliate you? You can hate me as much as you want. Please enjoy. With a bang, Chen Burang fell to his knees. The scene was deathly silent. Not a single sound could be heard. The sixth of the sky ranking, a life and death realm expert of the Central Prefecture, had actually kneeled down in such a humiliating manner. The moment Chen Burang knelt down, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Looking down at Chen Burang, Chu Yang sneered coldly in his heart, you might be threatening me, but why should I be afraid of you? For the sake of my mother-in-law and father-in-law, I'll let you have your way this time. After that, Chu Yang warned, Hero Chen, it won't be so easy next time. Before you seek revenge, I ask you to be careful, understand? How overbearing. Shangguan Lan finally saw Chu Yang's strength. He was really calm when he was still, but when he moved, the mountains would crumble and the earth would split. Chen Burang stood up from the ground. His face was not distorted, ferocious, or angry. He was so calm that it was frightening. His eyes were very deep. He looked at Chu Yang and said, I heard that before you entered the outer court, no one in the same realm was your match. Do you dare to fight with me in the same realm? Ha ha. Chu Yang burst out laughing at once. Chen Burang was not irritated. He continued, if you lose, just kneel down. Ha ha. Chu Yang laughed even louder. I promise you, I can let you have a higher realm. You can choose the time and place. You're really arrogant. Chen Burang finally showed his anger. His eyes were extremely sharp. He looked at Chu Yang coldly and said, I'll remember it. After saying this, Chen Burang directly left. His decisiveness, his desire to wash away his humiliation, made everyone know that the battle to wash away his humiliation would definitely be world-shaking. Before the competition of the 6 academies, in the Sky Academy. Chapter 1502. With this, the matter came to an end. The Saint Master and Long Xiaojun also left. After the new students of the inner court left, they began to discuss among themselves. Afterwards, they settled down and officially became students of the inner court. In the end, Chu Yang did not break through to the 9th level of the spirit stage, nor did he trigger a lightning calamity. It wasn't easy for him to break through to the 9th level of the spirit stage. Therefore, he, Xia Wanjin, and the parrot also settled down in the inner court. Chu Yang wanted to know why Long Xiaojun would never go back on his word once he agreed. Therefore, he went to find Shangguan Lan. Chu Yang arrived at Shangguan Lan's residence in the inner court. As soon as he entered, Shangguan Lan seemed to have known that he would come and seemed to have been waiting for him. When he saw Shangguan Lan again, he saw her beautiful face, tall figure, slender figure, and soft body. Her slender waist outlined the curves that were incomparably moving, and each of her slender legs was incomparably alluring. Under the fragmentary sunlight, her long hair cascaded down like the Milky Way. When she saw Chu Yang, her beautiful face couldn't help but reveal a smile. She was exceptionally beautiful, causing Chu Yang to stare blankly at her. What are you looking at? Haven't you already seen me? Shangguan Lan's face turned red and she couldn't help but lower her head. It seems that I'm very lucky to have met you when I was young. Chu Yang's black eyes stared at Shangguan Lan's delicate face and sighed, otherwise, how difficult would it be for me to get close to you? So you only fancied my appearance. Shangguan Lan couldn't help but curl her lips. She seemed to be a little unhappy. Chu Yang couldn't help but scratch his head and smiled. It's inevitable for men to be like this. Who told you to be so beautiful and hide my infinite feelings? Shangguan Lan smiled lightly. She liked to see Chu Yang like this. Within her beautiful eyes, there was a gentle smile. Okay, stop joking around. Let's talk business. Shangguan Lan withdrew her smile and said seriously, Long Xiaojun, you don't have to worry at all. He is the son of Prince Zhongxin and inherited the title of prince. He doesn't care about himself, but he cares a lot about his father. He will not allow anyone to ruin his father's reputation, let alone himself. Prince Zhongxin, a member of the royal family. Chu Yang was shaken. He thought to himself, if it's the imperial family of the Central Plains, then it's really bad. Through Kong Kuang's memories, He already knew a lot about the Eastern continent. The Great Jin dynasty ruled the entire heavenly spirit world. Shangguan Lan couldn't help but roll her eyes. You only know to be afraid now? How is this possible? Chu Yang immediately denied, I'm just thinking about it. I think I should reevaluate this hero. Long Shangguan Lan ignored him and continued, you should be worried about Chen Borang. Chen Borang is not as simple as he looks. Even I don't know his background. However, when he was at the spirit stage, he was able to kill someone at the transcendent stage. It was because of that incident that he came to the central region. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. Chen Borang was not inferior to him, but he was able to do so because he had the power of two worlds. Besides, as far as I know, Chen Borang is not only a supreme realm practitioner, but also a divine arts practitioner. He has 3 kinds of divine arts. The strength he showed in the Sky Academy was at most 1 level. Only 1 level? Chu Yang's expression became more serious. If he used all his skills, he would definitely be able to defeat Chen Borang in the same realm. However, if he was at a lower realm, he would lose without a doubt. Brother Yang, compared to Chen Borang, you must have a weaker foundation. Therefore, before you fight with him, you need to be prepared. Shangguan Lan's pretty face also became very serious. Chu Yang couldn't help but nod. The arrogant words he said earlier had become a big problem. In addition, this was only for Chen Borang. He would definitely not only have to face Chen Borang alone. The others would not fight with him at the same realm. Therefore, his current realm was a big problem. It was not that his realm was too low, but that he had taken too big a step forward. Chapter 1503. Chu Yang smiled like a flower in front of Shangguan Lan, but he still felt a lot of pressure in his heart. After thinking for a while, he decided not to stay in the Sky Courtyard, but returned to Sima Jian's place. On the way back, an idea was forming in his mind. But he had to confirm something first, and there was only one thing that could answer his question. Kuan, if I enter the God's world through the space-time passage at the seal, is it possible? Chu Yang wanted to enter the various divine realms to gain experience and perfect the martial arts system of the various divine realms. If he didn't enter the God's world, it would be impossible. If others knew such an idea, they would definitely think it was a crazy idea. People from the God's world would be labeled as extraterrestrial demons if they entered the heavenly spirit world, and it was the same when people from the heavenly spirit world entered the God's world. Therefore, not to mention other things, just this point alone made Chu Yang's idea a little crazy. However, this was just the beginning, and even crazier things were yet to come. Master, if you want to enter the God's world, it's not a problem at all. Bing Kuan smiled. Only when you enter the world of the gods can the 2 worlds in your body reach a true balance. If I enter the God's world through the space-time passage, won't there be enemies on the other side? The space-time passage was sealed in the heavenly spirit world, and Sima Jian was guarding it. He thought that on the other side of the passage, there would be at least someone guarding it. Hee. Bing Kuan smiled. Master, you think too much. The heavenly spirit world is in a defensive position, so the space-time passage is sealed and guarded, but the God's world is different. In addition, if someone from the heavenly spirit world enters the God's world, he will immediately become an extraterrestrial black pig. Therefore, even if someone from the heavenly spirit world enters the God's world doesn't need to care at all, and will immediately be discovered. As a result, the God's world on the other side of the space-time passage is completely empty. Extraterrestrial black pig. Chu Yang was speechless for a while. The East continent discriminated against the Eastern wilderness, the Central continent discriminated against the East continent, and the God's world discriminated against the heavenly spirit world. It was really interesting. However, this was the truth, and even more so the reality. In his previous life, discrimination was also omnipresent. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that the heavenly soul world would be discriminated against to such an extent, to the point that they were called black pigs from beyond the heavens. On the heavenly soul world side, the people of the God's world were called demons from beyond the heavens. The difference between the extraterrestrial black boar and the extraterrestrial demon was huge. The extraterrestrial black boar was obviously much more powerful and domineering. Little Kunken. Chu Yang was truly depressed. You're saying that I'll be called a wild dog here, but I'll be called a black pig in the god's realm. Both a pig and a dog. After saying that, Chu Yang really felt uncomfortable. Master, don't you have the world energy of the myriad god world? In addition, you cultivate the martial arts of the myriad god world. Who would be able to recognize that you are from the heavenly soul world? The Ice Kuan originally wanted to ridicule him, but when he noticed Chu Yang's displeasure, he decisively shut his mouth. Being called a wild dog was already depressing enough, but in a different place, he was called a black pig. It was as if there was no place for him in this world. How terrible was this feeling? If it was the Ice Kuan, it would definitely be in a bad mood. In that case, when I enter the god's world, everything is ready, and I don't lack anything. Chu Yang rubbed his chin and said, "My luck is so good, it seems like my plan will work." After returning to the space-time passage, he immediately found Sima Jian. Chapter 1504. Sima Jian was very clear about Chu Yang's character. If there wasn't anything important, he wouldn't come looking for him. As for cultivation, Chu Yang didn't need Sima Jian's guidance. On the contrary, Sima Jian was the one who wanted Chu Yang to give him some pointers. When he saw Chu Yang smiling, Sima Jian couldn't help but blurt out, "You can't be thinking about the space-time tunnel again, right?" His eyes widened in shock as he stared at Chu Yang. Waha! Chu Yang laughed exaggeratedly, "Uncle Sima, I'm going to enter the myriad gods world later. You better not stop me." "What?" Sima Jian jumped to his feet, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. He looked at Chu Yang from head to toe and said, "Kid, are you talking nonsense?" Chu Yang was the hope of the eastern wilderness. He wouldn't let this brat throw his life away. Entering the myriad gods world? What kind of joke was that? Seeing Sima Jian's reaction, Chu Yang rubbed his nose and said something even more shocking. "Senior, please open the space-time tunnel later. I want to use the heavenly soul world's lightning tribulation to break the barrier of the myriad gods world. I want to embed my soul mark inside and merge with the myriad gods world. If I'm not wrong, if you punch me, I'll punch you back. The myriad gods world will definitely retaliate. The lightning tribulation will also strike the heavenly soul world through the space-time tunnel. Therefore, I can also embed my soul mark into the heavenly soul world." After a pause, Chu Yang rubbed his chin and laughed strangely. "Waha, Grandpa Chu is really smart. If I don't come out, the world will be lonely and dim. Who dares to be a hero?" Ta. Sima Jian didn't seem to have hit Chu Yang hard on the head before. At this time, when he heard Sima Jian's words, he immediately tried to hit Chu Yang. The sound was crisp and clear. "Kid, are you dreaming or are you really confused?" The Ice Kuan was speechless when he heard this. Using the lightning punishment to strike the divine world, then letting the divine world and the heavenly soul world fight it out, and then reap the benefits of the fisherman. This idea shocked the Ice Kuan to the core. It was easier said than done, but it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. As such, when Chu Yang was about to break through and the lightning tribulation descended, he could quickly enter the space-time tunnel and guide the lightning tribulation to the god's world. At that time, the god realm would definitely react to the invaders. If the heavenly soul world gave the god's world a left hook, the god's world would give the god's world a right hook. The Ice Kuan thought for a while and was speechless. How did he come up with such a bullshit idea? But it didn't seem impossible. It could work. As long as there was a space-time tunnel, it could be done. Anyone in the heavenly spirit world could try it. But who would do such a crazy thing? Let alone do it, they probably wouldn't even think about it. This master of mine is really bold. The Ice Kuan sighed. If he didn't have the guts, how could he come up with it? Sima Jian was stunned on the spot. The idea was so crazy, but after thinking for a while, it seemed that it was worth it. After he recovered, he looked at Chu Yang with a strange gaze. "This idea is surprising. Isn't it simple?" Chu Yang shrugged and said, "Senior, can you look at me with a normal gaze?" "No." Sima Jian decisively refused. Then he pondered and said, Are you sure that the God's world doesn't have any defenses? If you were late by a second, I'm afraid you would be struck to death by the lightning tribulation. He said very seriously, if you avoid the lightning tribulation like this, the lightning tribulation will definitely change. It's hard to imagine, you know this. Chapter 1505. Where did you get this information from? That's easy. Chu Yang shrugged. I got all the memories of the ice koan in the Cave of Frost, so I want to go on a trip to the God's world. That was easy for him to say. Sima Jian was still a little confused until now. How could he agree? He immediately found a better excuse. Even if everything goes according to your plan, the Sky Academy will definitely investigate after such a big movement. What's the explanation at that time? What's the explanation? Chu Yang opened his eyes wide and said in horror, I don't know what happened. I want to ask you, what's going on? If this happened and the Sky Academy came to question him, Chu Yang's conduct would definitely infuriate them to death. You can't, this is too crazy. Sima Jian made a conclusion. Crazy my ass. Chu Yang cursed. Uncle Sima, if you don't take it, you'll be punished. There's such a big pie in front of you, if you don't take it, you won't be woken up by nightmares when you sleep. Sima Jian admitted that Chu Yang's words were reasonable. If Chu Yang's soul mark could be placed in the heavenly soul world and the God's world, what it meant was simply unimaginable. After all, it was impossible to place the soul mark in the heavenly soul world and the God's world. If Sima Jian dared to do it, there was only one result, death. However, if the two worlds clashed and counterattacked each other, there was indeed a great opportunity. If he missed it, he would really cry for his parents and regret it for 10,000 years. Uncle Sima, you should hurry up, Chu Yang said. Why do I feel that someone is also planning to do this? Sima Jian rolled his eyes. Who would dare to do this like a lunatic like you? I say, Uncle, this is such a simple matter. Many people have thought of this. Chu Yang said anxiously. Who wouldn't do such a thing? As long as you can think of it, no one can refuse. Chu Yang really couldn't refuse now. Both of his eyes were emitting green light. Placing one's soul in the heavenly soul world and the myriad God's world, what a joke. If others knew about this, he felt that everyone in the heavenly soul world would be envious to death. Sima Jian's head hurt. Then, he felt relieved and understood everything. How could he guide Chu Yang? How could he teach Chu Yang what to do? At that moment, he said in an annoyed voice, you can do whatever you want, right? Thank you, uncle. Waraha. Chu Yang laughed heartily as he succeeded. Chu Yang laughed happily, causing Sima Jian's mouth to twitch. Was this something to be happy about? Half a day later, Chu Yang and Bing Kuan finished discussing all the details. After that, he began to prepare for the tribulation. During this time, Sima Jian had made thorough preparations. He could completely open the seal at any time to ensure that Chu Yang could quickly enter the space-time passage and head to the myriad God's world. This wasn't a small matter. If he wasn't careful, he would die without a corpse. This was the same as toying with the two heavens. Sima Jian's nerves were tense. His palms were sweating, and his forehead was covered in sweat. He was even more nervous and pressured than before a life-and-death battle. It was easier said than done. Everything seemed simple, but how many people could actually do it? If it wasn't for Chu Yang's previous experience of successfully guiding the world force of the myriad God's world into his body, Chu Yang might have regretted such a crazy idea, even if he was extraordinary. Rumble. Everything was ready. While Sima Jian was nervous, Chu Yang was preparing to break through to the 9th level of the spirit realm. Chapter 1506. Chu Yang had 21 spirits, and each of them formed a divine spirit. Previously, when he used the Thunder Calamity to threaten Long Shaojun, Sage Master, and Chen Burang, he didn't want to be discovered, so he only used one of the three groups. At this moment, he didn't need to hide anything, and hoped that the Thunder Calamity would be more terrifying. This way, the impact on the world of the gods would be greater, and it would be easier for him to place his soul imprint. 21 spirits, God forbid. In his own deduction, the the lightning tribulation would definitely be incomparably terrifying. Rumble. At the center of Chu Yang's eyebrows, the light from the three groups of wheel spirit worlds became brighter and brighter, and three little people faintly appeared. Immediately, the rumbling of thunder suddenly became extremely violent. In an instant, the entire world was shaking, and it made people feel as if the end of the world was coming. In the sky, after the endless lightning flashed for a short while, it suddenly became extremely dark. Day turned into night, and it was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Damn, Master is only at the spirit realm, but the thunder calamity is too terrifying. Even the thunder calamity of a sage isn't this terrifying. In Chu Yang's spiritual world, the Ice Kuan couldn't help but shiver. It felt a great terror deep in its soul, as if something wanted to completely erase its remnant soul. Such a thunder calamity was even more terrifying than its divine calamity. This, Sima Jian was also stunned, and he was completely speechless. He never expected that Chu Yang's heavenly calamity would cause such a phenomenon, heavenly change. Heavenly change would only appear when the heavenly change killed creatures that were absolutely not allowed to exist in the world. What happened? What exactly happened? Why did the sky suddenly turn dark? Could it be that the sun in the sky was eaten by someone? Could this be the prelude to the arrival of a catastrophe and the end of the world? When the sky courtyard was established, there was a great turmoil. Such a drastic change made people's hearts tremble. Rumble. A deafening sound resounded throughout the world. As the sky shook and the earth changed, endless lightning flashed. In an instant, the world was several times brighter than during the day, and people immediately understood what had happened. Thunder cloud, the boundless thunder cloud. The boundless thunder cloud has shrouded the entire sky, and not a single ray of light can penetrate it. Lightning tribulation? Who is it? Why is the lightning tribulation so terrifying? Could it be that someone is undergoing the divine tribulation? Is there going to be another saint in our sky? This is not a divine tribulation, this is a heavenly change. A character that the heavens do not allow to exist has appeared in this world. He must be obliterated. The center of the lightning tribulation seems to be in the direction of the space-time passageway. Could it be Chu Yang? He is not tolerated by the heavens. Cries of shock rang out continuously. Who would have thought that such a drastic change would occur? Is it Brother Goat? Shangguan Lan naturally knew of the pressure on Chu Yang. She couldn't help but look in the direction of Chu Yang. She was extremely worried. Is Chu Yang really a creature that the heavens do not allow to exist? Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, Xiong Longxiang, and the parrot were different from the others. They instantly determined that the person who triggered the lightning tribulation must be Chu Yang. However, the lightning tribulation was so terrifying that every one of them was dumbfounded. Especially Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, and Xiong Longxiang. They had now witnessed how terrifying it was. Freak, what a freak! The ancient demon god was also deeply shocked. He had never seen such a character in his life. He was only at the 8th level of the spirit realm, but he was able to cause a heavenly change. Long Xiaojun, Chen Burang, Shi Jinghan, the sage sovereign and the others were all inexplicably shocked. Fear filled their hearts and surged. Somewhere in the central region, the lightning tribulation was also forming. The person undergoing the tribulation was a scholar. Books and records constantly appeared in his eyes. Chapter 1507. Heavenly Change. The heavens and earth were sometimes dark and sometimes bright. Chu Yang alternated between darkness and light. Looking at the entire sky turning into a thunder cloud, he was dumbfounded. He thought that since he was at the 9th stage of the spirit realm, the lightning tribulation would definitely be terrifying. However, he never thought that it would be this terrifying. Damned heavens, tell Grandpa Chu which eye of yours is not pleasing to the eye. I will definitely break that eye of yours. Chu Yang almost couldn't help but activate the 3-character scripture. If he didn't have the thought of going to the world of gods, he would have been killed while breaking through. Is it because of the 21 souls, or because I absorbed the world force of the world of gods into my body? Or is it because of my transmigration? He couldn't figure it out. In any case, no matter what it was, it couldn't change the fact that the heavenly change had occurred. Ha ha. Chu Yang immediately laughed loudly. Come, heavenly change, come even more fiercely. As long as he thought about the terrifying lightning tribulation, he would definitely be able to create a huge hole in the world of gods. His bad mood instantly disappeared, and it was incomparably beautiful. This was simply helping him. Perhaps, there would be a big surprise later. He might even be able to obtain the world origin of the world of gods. It was like two people fighting, and the person who attacked first actually took out a knife and stabbed the other person to kill. Blood would definitely spurt out. The blood was the world origin. Sima Jian really admired Chu Yang. He was actually happy instead of being angry. This was a heavenly change. Couldn't he be a little more careful? Moreover, you're not here to watch the show. Why aren't you worried about the situation? Rumble. The heavens and earth seemed like they were about to collapse. The buildings trembled and shook violently. Endless thunder surged out from the center of the thundercloud. It was like a huge sun, causing the heavens and earth to no longer be dark. Everyone could clearly see that at the bottom of the thundercloud, there were 4 objects, but they were too blurry to be seen clearly. In just an instant, the 4 objects were incomparably clear. Although they appeared from the lightning tribulation, they were no different from real objects. However, the people who saw the 4 objects were instantly in an uproar. Guillotine, the heavenly guillotine. Heavens, the heavenly guillotine actually appeared. The heavenly guillotine can only be used to kill. Only those who have committed great sins will appear in this world. If heaven and earth were an imperial court, then anyone who violated the laws of heaven would be committing a great crime, a great traitor. At the same time, he would also be severely punished. He would be greeted with a guillotine and beheaded. The difference was that the heavenly Tao was not the imperial court, and the horror of the guillotine displayed was unimaginable. After the initial hubbub, the people looked at the 4 guillotines below the thundercloud. Soon, there was no sound, and the world was deathly silent. Of the 4 guillotines, one was a dog's head, one was a wolf's head, one was a tiger's head, and one was a dragon's head. It was rumored that the heavens guillotine contained many malicious things and many types of curses. When it was released, black clouds would fill the sky, and ghosts would weep and gods would howl. The world would be dyed in blood, and a yellow rain of corpses would fall. Not to mention chopping off the head, as long as the skin and flesh were cut open, the blood and flesh would be contaminated with the poison and curse on the head, and the death would be extremely painful. The death would be incomparably miserable, and it was said that it could even scare a person to death. Brother Goat. Shangguan Lan's heart was already in a knot. Worry, anxiety, fear. In an instant, she felt as if she had fallen into an endless hell, suffering endless pain. The heavenly guillotine. Sima Jian's mouth and tongue were dry. He stared blankly at the 4 guillotines, unable to speak for a long time. This pervert has finally met a fierce one. This time, he's probably in danger. Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, and Xiong Longxiang were also anxious and fearful. Their soul imprints were all in Chu Yang's hands. If Chu Yang died, they would also turn into ashes. The parrot was laughing strangely. Chu Hang must be jumping up and down right now. He must be cursing. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.